And we're live, Dave Rubin. I'm trying to shut this fucker
Shut
off.
that fucking thing off for 2 seconds. Jesus.
We are here to celebrate the fact that Chris Christie got kicked off of a quiet train this morning for talking on his phone while drinking a McDonald's strawberry shake. And this is the guy who wants to ban pot. How about ban yourself, you fucking slob? How dare you?
How dare he drink a McDonald's strawberry shake in public?
After.
In light of everything.
Not only
You
that,
know?
after having his stomach stapled.
Yeah. It didn't really take.
Yeah.
You know? It's
You
supposed
can
to
stretch
most
those
people.
bitches out.
You can?
Yeah.
But you have to do something. You think he's doing something? Like
You just keep eating.
you just keep plowing through.
I know a guy who's blown through 2 of them.
Ooh.
He's had it done twice and blown through it both times.
So you actually like tear open the staples? Like is that
I haven't done any MRIs
all right.
or operations on these people.
I thought we were going to go heavy medical stuff today.
But
surgery
as
and
it's
shit.
been explained to me, Dave Rubin, the
Yes.
skin is flexible, and if you just keep stretching that bitch out, it's clearly with these people. Like, I have a friend, and his friend is a friend of mine as well, but a good friend of his, and he's about to go do this, and I said, please try to talk him out of it because you don't need surgery, you just need to change your life.
Yeah.
Because the surgery is only going to fix the physical aspect of it. There's a reason why you're stuffing all this sugar and fat, and you're addicted to food.
Yeah.
So you need to find out what it is, what's going on. Like,
So you're talking about the psychological part of the emotional
I think that's
part.
where it's really at. I don't think it is the physical thing. I think the physical thing is a manifestation of the psychological issue. For sure, you get physically addicted to shitty food. Like I quit sugar recently. Shouldn't say I quit sugar because I had a little this weekend. So I didn't quit it, but I removed it from my primary diet, and I quit it altogether for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And what happened to me 5 days in was really shocking because I had a massive headache. Like 5 days in, the cravings were freaky, and my head was killing me. And it's like Snapples and protein bars and low-fat milk. There's all this shit that has sugar in it.
Everything.
Granola. You think of granola as healthy.
Yeah.
And then I would look at it, I'm like, 20 grams of sugar in a fucking serving of granola. And I usually have 2 servings.
Uh-huh.
Yogurt.
I mean, look, it's not even sugar what we do. We do in America, we do high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't know if
that
to
too.
illuminate you on this,
Yeah.
but in our Coke, in our can of Coke, because it's cheaper to put corn in it to sweeten it, we're drinking corn instead of sugar. That's why people get Mexican Cokes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You go to a fancy restaurant here in LA, they give you a Mexican Coke because that has real sugar. Think how just warped our whole system is.
I know.
The corn thing, but we could do 5 hours on corn because corn is, it's in wallpaper, it's in everything.
It's amazing.
And, you're trying to get off sugar, but what you're really trying to get off is corn.
There's definitely that as well. But I think even just simple sugar. It's like even like I read this one thing. It's like I forget what the product was, but it was one of the ingredients was pure cane sugar. Like you're selling me something amazing.
Well, that's Pepsi now.
Yeah.
They pure cane sugar. Like, holy shit, sugar.
It's still sugar, but
Whoa.
it's still your body doesn't necessarily differentiate. It's still sugar.
Real salt. Like that's how dumb people have become about food. We were talking a little bit about food before we started, but like it's like the most important stuff, what you put into your body so that then you can function on this earth. And we're so warped. We got corn instead of sugar. Even just now, so I told you I drank like 17 coffees before, but I didn't put any. You have stevia and everything. I just went straight black, nothing.
I've been drinking straight black lately too, but it's actually I had this guy Peter Giuliano on at one point, who's a real coffee expert, and when you talk to a guy like that and you talk about putting cream in the coffee, you can see his face like, oh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like to him, it's a sacrilege almost. Like,
so what would he say to drink it? What's the best
black?
way? Just
Drink it
black. That's it.
Yeah, and I've been drinking it black. I actually prefer it. In a method that this guy Rob Wolf created, which is you mix it with grass-fed butter.
I was doing
and
it.
MCT oil. The problem is for a podcast, it gives me phlegm. And I start in the middle. And it's annoying as fuck for people that are listening.
But it's
to
pretty
the
damn
show.
delicious.
It's very good.
Yeah,
I
so
still do that, but I just don't do it before podcasts anymore.
So
go
I
black.
did it. I did it for about 6 months. I was doing the grass-fed butter and coconut oil, just like a teaspoon of coconut oil. And it's amazing, and you feel great, and it's delicious and all that. But I did, over the course of about 6 months, I probably gained like 8 pounds.
From all the butter.
It's a lot of calories to be plowing in the
Yeah.
morning. But it does do some good things. I think it has something to do with how the caffeine actually ingests into your body. It slows it down so you don't get that like burst of energy and then crash and all that, which was all great. But, 8 pounds in 6 months.
That is a lot to gain. For most people, it dulls their appetite. Didn't dull your appetite?
No, not
You don't
really.
give a fuck.
I don't give up. I live in West Hollywood. There's a certain amount of working out I have to do. Not Joe Rogan level, but it's
Just to stay in the neighborhood, just a certain amount.
Have you ever
Community
walked
standards?
down
Yes.
like Santa Monica in the middle of West Hollywood? I live in the gayest place on earth.
I've never seen so many Daisy Dukes.
It is. It really.
one spot.
Well, first off, I'm considered morbidly obese by these people's standards because they starve them. I don't
For
understand.
people
how,
listening, Dave Rubin's a very slim man.
yeah, if you're just
Very
listening, I guess.
slender and fit. So.
The thing is, these guys, it's the gayest place on earth, and these guys work on their bodies all day long. You should not be carrying a dog. They carry their dogs, these Opsalopses and all these other your bicep shouldn't be bigger than your dog. You know what I mean? That just shouldn't be. And you shouldn't be carrying. I have a pit bull. She's not, my bicep's not bigger than her. I think that's a healthy way to do it. But yeah, in West Hollywood, these guys, I don't know how do you starve yourself and have huge muscles. I just don't.
Well,
it's all
steroids.
It's steroids.
That certainly helps. Yeah. You can. There's some stuff that fighters have been caught with that I think it's called. There's one called clenbuterol and another called stanozolol, I think. And the idea
It's really
behind
good for you,
these,
that stuff.
the clen, I think, is supposed to like really just lean you out. It's a bodybuilder thing, and the stanozolol allows you to keep mass on, or helps you, assist you in keeping mass on when you cut weight. So for fighters that are trying to be like the biggest in their weight class,
right,
they're dehydrating themselves, but they want to keep as much muscle mass as possible.
That can't be good for long-term health, right?
So bad for your body.
I mean,
so
I see it with these guys, and it's like, they're doing this just so that they can get somebody that has a better body than them, so they can fuck, and then they move on to the next one. It's like this endless game, you know what I mean? Like, I got a hot body, he's got a hot body, I'll fuck him, now I moved it. Like, it's just this, you're climbing this ladder.
Yeah.
It's like Icarus, you know what I mean? You're just going up and up and up, but one day this thing is just going to blow up in your face.
Yeah, but,
That could be a sex
if
pun,
you look
but I'll
at
just
life,
leave it
though,
there.
like life is this temporary trip, right? You have maybe 50 years of people actually wanting to have sex with you. Right?
Yeah.
If you're fucking so lucky, you take care of everything. So that's like from 18 to like when you're closing in on 70, everybody who fucks you is just doing you charity.
And that's the saddest. That's the saddest. I see this. These overly tanned, hair plugged guys that are 70 years old and they're still at the gym hoping that 28-year-old is looking at them. And instead they're staring at everyone and gawking at them horribly.
Yeah.
And it's all gross. It's really sad. And we can get into this a little later, but it also shows me why the gay marriage thing was so important. Because I actually have a lot of empathy for these people, although I can, it's easy to make fun of. But like, if you couldn't ever enter a relationship that then you're going to build like what you have with your wife, where you can build a life,
Right.
and you can have kids and move forward in life. Well, then if all you have is just fucking, you just keep doing it. You know what I mean?
And as many guys as possible, rotations, different ones texting you all day long, trying to put it together.
Yeah, I mean,
trying to figure out when you could squeeze the time in.
And I guess exactly, and I guess it feels good in the moment.
Yeah.
But for the long-term health of just like what being a
Right.
human is, not so great.
But I think, interestingly enough, if you look at the perspective of like a full, long life, like it's just a bunch of moments. It's just like trying to maintain happiness at a certain level as much as possible. And you could be Chris Christie, where you're addicted to McDonald's shakes and being a fat slob. And
Doesn't he have an
sausage
advisor?
sandwiches. No, he
Isn't there
doesn't.
an advisor that says
too much ego? He doesn't listen.
Yeah.
Or you could try to fill yourself up with that. And be married and have kids, and and have that part of your life achieve normalcy. Or you can do the super tan, roided up, dick sucking rampage that those guys that work out at like Gold's Gym on Cole. Do you know that spot?
I don't know that one, but
Dude, when I was on News Radio, we used to work out. We used to work at Sunset and Gower. That was the studio.
yeah.
And Gold's Gym was right down the street. So sometimes we'd have off like 2 hours during the middle of the day where they had to rewrite scripts or stuff like that. So I'd just shoot over to Gold's, get a workout in, and come back. But it is the fucking gayest gym. It's not, it's a ferocious disco is what it is. It's just a bunch of men with scrunchy socks on and Timberlands and like super short shorts and just the tightest tank tops. And you walk in there like a wounded antelope, just gingerly stepping close to the water hole.
But
like,
how did you feel there? Because you're in good shape.
How I felt.
But you're in good shape, right? Like you care about your body, right? You're doing the right things. But you go in there and you see these guys, and you does it completely like, oh fuck, like I'm a fat fuck.
No, it wasn't that at all. I was in my 20s when I was doing that. This is when I was on news radio. But I was fucking being targeted.
Yeah.
Like, that was the problem. Like, guys were like, you could have 20 pounds on the bar. Guys like, I'll spot you. Like, I don't need a spot, dude. Just get your fucking balls from above my head.
Yeah.
Like, they would literally, you'd be on the bench, and dudes would just put their dick above your head to grab the bar. They just wanted their dick in proximity with your face. You know, like when you're doing bench press.
They can literally bench press with their cocks.
You know what I mean? They can.
Yeah.
This was pre-Viagra, too, you got to think. Because this was in the 90s. These poor bastards were going on the natch. Yeah. And when it went bad, then they had cock pumps. And was a Liberace movie with Michael Douglas. Like, he had some sort
Behind
of
the
implant.
Candelabra, yeah.
They used to have implants, I guess. Back in those days, those poor guys.
I had no idea we were going to start like this.
I didn't either. That's the beauty of this show. We just let that bitch run.
Yeah.
But for a brief moment, not entirely, because I can defend myself, but I felt what it was like to be a woman that was pursued by men. Yeah. Because men are fucking gross.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It has nothing. It has nothing to do with gay or straight. Mm-hmm. It's a man thing. Mm-hmm. So if you happen to be a man into men, well, congratulations. You just got welcomed to that world, and you were treated like a woman.
Exactly.
So I have great sympathy for women that have to deal with this shit.
I got treated like a woman with a gun. It's like, okay, all right, relax. Because I wasn't vulnerable physically.
Yeah.
Because I was like, dude, stop.
Yeah.
And then it's two dudes looking at each other, and I'm like, come on, man, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a woman who like could physically be overpowered by this guy. It was like a guy saying, I'm gonna kick your ass if you don't stop trying to fuck me.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
Were you always amazed at their relentless tenacity to never take a cue? Joe Rogan not into it. And they can never take the cue, right?
Yeah, well, it was only a few guys. Most guys would figure out that you were straight and they were respectful.
Yeah.
The vast majority. But it only takes, if there's 300 guys working out at the gym, it only takes 2 guys to fuck up the entire experience. Less than 1%.
Yeah.
And they'll but those are the ones that are just like, they're going to go for it. But there's probably 50 other guys that are trying to work their way into the friend zone.
Right.
Which is what women experience. What women experience is a bunch of guys. I can't tell you, especially when I was younger and I was single, how many fucking girls that I dated who would work with some guy who would say, well, Mike from the office says, I'd be like, Mike's trying to fuck you.
Yeah.
Mike's trying to fuck you. He's not even a real person. He's not even a real person. Mike's wearing a kabuki mask and he's doing a fucking dance. It's a mating dance. Yeah. That's not what he thinks. This is bullshit. Stop it.
Meanwhile, I got to go to the gym and deal with that.
Mike would marry me. Mike is a fucking idiot. Jesus. But that's what it's. I mean, there's a reason why there's 7 billion of us, because this drive to procreate, and not even on a conscious level. It's not like, oh my God, I have to get this girl pregnant and have a baby. It's like, I got to come inside of her.
Yeah.
I have to come. I have to figure out how to get this person to touch my body and create pleasure. You don't take the objective steps to recognize, oh, this is a gigantic biological trick that's been set in place by nature because it was really hard to survive just a few thousand years ago.
Yeah.
It was insanely hard to survive, and you had to make sure you made as many people as possible so that they made as many people as possible so we can keep this retarded party going.
That's what it is,
That's
right?
what it is.
At the end of the day, that's what it is, and that's why it keeps getting dumber. I'm sure you've seen Idiocracy. You ever see Idiocracy?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I honestly haven't seen it. I've only seen clips of it, but I had a bit that people accused me of stealing from Idiocracy, but luckily I did the bit before Idiocracy came out, so I got grandfathered in.
That's the comedian's dilemma when you're doing good shit, so that 10 years later everyone's like, "Oh, you must have stole that," and you're like, "No, I did that 10 years ago.
Well, it wasn't that close. It was just the concept that many people have had is that dumb people are outbreeding smart people.
Yeah, that's the movie.
Mine was that it explained the pyramids. My thing was that the idiot pyramid workers would show up one day and go, I was supposed to get my check on Friday. Where is everybody? But all the smart people who figured out how to build the pyramids had already died.
Yeah.
And that we had to, so the people just moved into the pyramids. Like, why are we living in these mud houses when we can live in the pyramids? So they moved into the pyramids and pretend they built it. And there's this long thing that sort of explains what's going on today.
Yeah.
And I think that we all think at a certain level that that's true, that there's way more dumb people than there are smart people. And then we all think that we benefit from people like Elon Musk and innovators and geniuses. But how many of them are there?
Not many.
Not many.
Not many.
It's a tiny, tiny number.
Yeah. Well, listen, I just got gay married like a month ago.
I love how you say gay married.
I have to say, well, first off, people don't believe that I'm gay. They just simply don't accept it.
Why don't they accept it?
They say I don't act gay. I play sports. I don't, I got this at the Gap. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like gay.
You didn't
like
go to
that.
Abercrombie and Fitch and get assaulted with that smell that they zap you with when you walk in there?
You know, it's funny. I know that smell. I used to be afraid when I was closeted, like in high school and college, because I didn't come out till really my mid to late 20s. But I used to be afraid of Abercrombie and Fitch because they used to have those shirtless, like these shirtless hot guys standing outside. And I felt that they would know. Like, I just thought, like, these guys are going to know that I'm gay.
They used to have guys standing outside the store?
Yeah. Oh, you don't remember that? Like, even the stores at the mall, they'd have just these shirtless guys. All they are all perfectly tan. They all look perfect, and they would just be standing there greeting you.
What?
And to me, it was like,
how did I miss this?
Yeah, it was like walking into a porn. So I was afraid that they were gonna like read gay on me. So I'm not kidding. I don't think I have ever bought anything from Abercrombie.
I've been there many times, but I never saw the shirtless
that? That's
gay
how
guys.
straight
you
are.
I missed it.
Good for you.
What year was it that they did this?
They were for a long time. They were doing this probably in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I probably didn't go to Abercrombie and Fitch until the mid 2000s. So I did.
Maybe they were phasing it out.
You know what's really interesting? That started as a hunting and fishing supply company.
Yeah.
Like, boy, did they fucking make a turn.
Yeah. And yeah, and then that guy, the guy who runs it, he must have body dysmorphia or something.
I don't know who he is.
There's this guy.
Pull it up, Jamie.
What's his name? I don't know what his name is. He's the one who he really instilled this idea that everyone there has to look perfect and look the same, sort of. And that's why they've had all these lawsuits with people that were either a little fat that couldn't get jobs there, or I think there was a girl who wanted to wear a hijab, or all that stuff. But if you look at this guy, we'll pull him up. Got so much fucking work done on his face because he's just, it goes to what you said before. He's like expressing his own weaknesses and he's projecting them sort of onto a generation of kids.
And he's also expressing his own like confusion externally, whether he realizes.
Yeah, I mean, look at that guy.
Whoa.
Like, he's had some serious shit done.
61-year-old CEO, we don't need to say his name, says dude a lot. He'll say, what a cool, this is Salon.com. First of all, fuck Salon.
Yeah, fuck Salon.
Fuck you.
I am down with that.
You fucking creeps.
Frauds.
They're just aggressively shitty. And I don't...
Who writes those fucking headlines, those tweets? I had to unfollow them because I was like, this is such epic bullshit and just such dishonest trash.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Terrible. Dave Rubin, why he's everything that's wrong with gay people today.
Exactly.
I mean, you would get those kind of articles and just twisting and distorting your real positions to make social brownie points to appeal to the hardest of hardcore, aggressive social justice warrior lefties.
Can we get everybody to hate everybody?
Yeah.
Can we fucking split everybody down to just their color and their sex to the point where you can then control everybody? Because if anyone gets out of that little box, there's something wrong with them, not something wrong with you.
Well, this poor guy, he's not hanging in there well. Like Robert Redford, that motherfucker's hanging in there well.
Yeah.
He's hanging in there well. He's obviously an old dude, but he doesn't look like a monster.
Yeah.
Like I was at, my kid has a gymnastics class, and there's this poor, unfortunate woman who goes to this gymnastics class who she looks like she's quite wealthy. She's always dressed very well, but she's got what I call monster face. And monster face is when they shoot their face up with filler, and then they do the lips, and then they pull their face back, so they have this sort of reptilian mouth where their mouth is way too big. And it's way too big because they're pulling this fucking skin, so the opening of their mouth doesn't match a normal person's face because it's bigger. It stretches like this guy's Chris Christie's stomach. You keep pulling it, it gets bigger. I mean, skin is flexible.
Think how deranged, really. Like the idea of that. You know, these people care about what they look like, right? So they want to look better. So they go in that first time, they get a little Botox or they get Restylane or one of those fillers, whatever that is. But think how the course of that changes the way they think about everything to the point where that woman probably thinks she looks good. You know what I mean? That's an adventure in the psyche right there.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same as bodybuilders. It's the same as people with anorexia.
Yeah. It's the same as the guys we were talking about before.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They just you just keep doing it. No matter what you do, you take off your shirt, you look in the mirror and you go, this should be a little tighter over here.
Yeah.
You know, and the woman's looking at her. It's always the upper lip. That's the one I see on these women.
They get it fat.
Yeah.
I have this poor lady that I know that had her lips done, and every time she talks to you, she's got a scar like inside of her mouth.
Yeah.
That's like, it's her lip, you know, it's like it there's a line. So like the lips never move correctly because like Lisa Rinna, is that her name?
Yeah, well, she had that thing removed, right?
Did she?
She was the one that had like the crazy, crazy, crazy lips. And I'm pretty sure about a year ago, she had like something taken out or some filler removed or something. But
I get it though, man. I had hair transplants when I was in my 20s, and
they didn't take definitely didn't take.
Not anymore. I had a joke about it. The joke was it's like taking really healthy people and moving them into a neighborhood where everybody's dying. It's like you try to repopulate like Chernobyl. You know, like,
you thought you were gentrifying the front, but in the end, you just killed more people.
Well, you know what it is, man. You keep losing hair, so it worked at first. Like, oh yeah, the parts that was falling out, I filled it in. We're good, but you're not good. It keeps fucking up.
So you did the thing where you actually had it like cut out.
See the back of my head?
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah. They cut a strip out.
How long did you let it go before you gave up and just said,
well, I had it done, and then it was just slowly giving up. And then there's also things you can do, like you could take Rogaine, which kind of keeps it in. But how funny is it when your name is Rogan and you're going to buy Rogaine?
Yeah.
That's ironic.
Just for that reason alone, you probably shouldn't have been on it because it was
I just dealt with it. I dealt with that. But I'm like, if it works, I don't give a shit. And it did kind of work. And then Propecia, which works really well, but also kills your dick. So you got a lot of options.
I did. I was on Propecia for about 6 months, about maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and I couldn't get a boner.
Yeah, it's a boner killer.
Yeah, I'd rather have a boner than hair.
Yes,
like
I
can fully say that.
But now that I shaved my head, I actually like it way better. It's so easy, and you don't get kidnapped by people that are cutting your hair. Because I used to get my hair cut by this lady who I love dearly, but sometimes I'd be in a rush, and she would hold me hostage with these fucking stories because she'd be holding the scissors. And then I told her, "You're not gonna fucking talk to me like that," and I'd be like, really interesting. Cut my fucking hair so I can run.
Yeah.
Cut my hair so I can run away.
So basically, you shaved your head because you didn't want to listen to this bitch.
No, she was not. She's not a bitch. She's my friend. I love her, but her stories are terrible. Yeah. But it's not even that. It's just something to not think about. Yeah. It's like all of a sudden when I shaved it was like instant freedom. Like, oh yeah. And I use the back of my head as a public service announcement. Like if anybody's thinking about getting a hair transplant, I'm like, look at my head. See the scar? You don't want one of those. Yeah. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Can you swim? Cancer. Let me get this straight. Can you swim? Because I always see in the commercials when they get the hair, suddenly they can swim again. It seems like they couldn't swim. They had lost the ability to do the breaststroke.
Well, the wig commercials are the same. In the wig commercials, they're always underwater.
Yeah.
It's like fucking crazy.
So you're telling me you can still swim?
It's not as good. I'm a little sleeker through the water, so it's confusing.
Yeah.
My timing is off.
It all makes no sense because you see the Olympic guys, they wear the caps so that it makes it seem like they're bald and they're swimming well, and yet you watch those commercials and then they have a head of hair and they're swimming well. So it's very confusing.
Well, I think the idea is that if you get in the water, like instantly all the work that you've done with hairspray to lock this fucking monster in place, it all dissolves with the water and you leave behind an oil slick. But when you get in the water with one of those wacky wigs, the little hair club jammies, when the idea is that nobody can tell.
Nobody can tell. Now, I know you have theories on things. Do you have a theory on hair loss? Was it stress-related for you?
No, it's just genetics.
It's purely genetic.
It's 100% genetics. Yeah. It's dihydrotestosterone. Your body produces a derivative of testosterone, DHT, causes your hair to fall out. I don't know why it exists in humans. It's a strange thing, and why it exists in some and not others. But they're like really close to fixing that, apparently, with just like some sort of a pill or a rub. But that'll probably cause cancer or do something, make you go blind in one eye.
You're gonna have diarrhea and all that shit. Every pill we take causes 20 other things. You know. I really think that they need to start. They need to show us when they talk about the pill, whatever pill it is. You got restless leg syndrome. You got
what is that?
Your legs can't stop.
How is that real?
Bill Maher does a funny bit on that, like, because we sit all day. It's your body like revolting against you. Like, get the fuck up. Go do some shit.
I wonder if like joggers get restless leg syndrome.
Probably not, because they're actually moving.
Yeah, I mean, that would be really interesting to study. Jamie, you're a runner. Do you ever get restless legs? You do?
You got the restless leg?
I've had it my whole life.
You get restless leg?
Yeah.
But you run a lot.
That's why I was moving my legs over here.
Okay.
I just feel like they need to move. I don't know. It's weird.
Wow. Oh. I'm not
it's
sure.
It's not real. I don't feel like
But don't you think they should have to show, like when they show you the pill and then everyone's running in a field, it's all that bullshit marketing nonsense.
Right.
But then they'll say it could cause suicidal thoughts. They should have to show someone going through suicidal thoughts or show somebody having diarrhea. Like they keep doing this, but the guy's running through a field having a hell of, show me what it's like.
Those commercials.
Sudden death.
Yeah.
Show a guy walking down the boardwalk just dropping dead. You know what I mean? Like, why are they allowed to do that? It's such mixed messaging. You don't understand what you're getting yourself into. Chantix, you're going to stop smoking. You might drop dead. You might, explosive diarrhea, whatever it is. Like, you got to show me.
Yeah, that's one thing if you're advertising a car, right? If you've got like the newest Cadillac and it looks cool and you drive and you look cool driving, like, man, I want to get one of those.
Yeah.
That's sort of okay. But if it's another thing, if it's some crazy, you remember there was a drug that they were selling for a while, they were advertising that was a supplement to your current antidepressant?
Oh, that was like Abilify or
something like that.
Yeah, one of those. Was that the one with the cloud, the cartoon cloud that was following the guy?
I think it was.
Because if you have a cartoon cloud following you, you got some serious problems.
But there's something fucked up about advertising for something that's a drug that can affect your mind and possibly cause suicidal thoughts, because advertising is entirely designed to coax you into buying the product.
Sure.
And that's a big life to say. That's like, ask your doctor about it. No, you shouldn't be allowed to say that.
You shouldn't be allowed to say it because then first off, everybody's on prescription drugs. I'm not on any prescription drugs right now. I have been for about 6 months. Also around the Propecia time, I was on Lexapro or one of those like mild.
That kills your dick too. You had a double whammy.
Oh, man.
Your dick was getting kicked and punched.
Yeah. Well, he's fully back. He's back and better than ever.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Success.
But I was on one of those, and when I got off, I remember, you're supposed to tell your psychiatrist or whatever because they'll wean you off it. But I was like, I didn't like the guy, and I was like, I'm just going to get off this thing.
You didn't like your psychiatrist, so you're keeping shit from him?
I didn't like him. His last name was Rubin, which is why I went to him.
Oh.
And then I just didn't like him, and I was like, fuck this, I'm not going to do it. But anyway, I just figured, all right, instead of taking one a day, I'll just do one every other day and then one every 3 days, something like that. And it worked. I weaned off it. I kid you not. I swear to God, this is true. I remember when you used to turn on an old computer, like an old desktop computer, all the whirring and the buzzing, and you'd hear the hard drive spinning and all that shit. I could feel that in my brain for about 2 weeks when I got off it.
Whoa.
I felt my brain actually like resetting or something. Like literally a whirring. There was like woo, 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 and then like little like sparks.
Was this when you were thinking or any time?
I just remember I lived in New York City at the time. I remember very vividly one day I was walking down Amsterdam and maybe a week out, and I felt my brain like just coming back on. So that shit, it does something to you.
Yeah.
It does something. And the boner stuff and, all that. The reason I got off it actually was because one of my best friends, childhood best friends, was killed in a car accident. And when I heard, I had almost no reaction. This is one of my best friends from 4 years old. And I just was like, I was sad, but like I didn't have a sad reaction,
Yeah.
Like I knew it was sad, but my reaction wasn't sad. And then I was like, all right, that's it.
It's a terrifying thing to remove the lows.
Yeah.
All the lows, like the lows are there to teach you.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to learn. You got to learn from failure. Failure is important. And feeling bad is important. It really is, because it makes you understand and appreciate the magnitude of feeling good. Like it draws you towards that as a better alternative.
Sure. And especially as an artist, as someone that speaks and is supposed to have a full set of emotions and be able to go on stage, tell people what I think,
that's the argument with school shooters. One of the things about school shooters is a massively disproportionate amount of them are on psych meds. And the idea is that they can do that. And, you know, it's, well, what is it for what, you know, what came first? Is it the disease, the mental illness that causes them to be able to shoot somebody in the first place?
Right.
Or is it the fact that they're on pills? Is it the fact that they're on pills because they're mentally ill? Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
But people that I know that have been on various antidepressants, SSRIs or whatever, they tell you that things don't bother them.
Yeah.
So if things don't bother them, like shooting people, like the lack of empathy, like it seems to me, in my armchair psychology, you know, position, that would there'd be a correlation there.
Well, it's always why we have a real inability in America to talk about two things at once, that two things could be true at the same time. So like when you look at the shootings, immediately the people who are against guns will say it's about guns. And the people who are for guns will say it's about mental health. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure two things could be true at the same time.
Absolutely.
And we have a mental health problem and we have too easy access to guns. You're a hunter. I'm pretty sure you're for the Second Amendment, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe in the Second Amendment. We should be able to arm ourselves, but it is still too easy to get guns. You shouldn't be able to necessarily have a assault rifle to plow down, 30 people at once, all that. But at the same time, a huge percentage of these people are on some sort of medication. That's not a coincidence.
Not at all. No.
And if they didn't have something wrong with them, no matter how many guns you had access to, you're a relatively sane guy. No matter how many guns you have, you're not going to shoot a school, right?
Yeah.
So that says, there's some mental health component to this.
Well, I think it should be really difficult to get a car too. I mean, I think it should be difficult to get a gun. I mean, in so as they should do some sort of background check. They should evaluate whether or not you have any competency whatsoever. How much have you learned about shooting a gun? Yeah. And that's not the case right now.
Yeah, I mean, the other problem is there's so many guns out there that the people that are doing this shit, like this last guy in Oregon, I think he didn't get the gun. It was his mom that got the gun, I think.
Same as
so
the
it's
guy
like
in
you
Connecticut.
can get a gun, even if you shouldn't be able to get a gun. So
yeah, that is an issue, but we should make it at least more difficult. And the mental health aspect of it is a huge problem. And to say that it's not, that it's only a gun issue is a blind thing that people do.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think there's a bunch of different issues at stake here. And I think that's the case with a lot of different things. And that's one of the problems that I have with like the idea of a left and a right. I think I have a lot of left ideas, almost all of them, and then I'll have a few right ideas. I'm on sort of both sides of a lot of shit.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to get into that with you because that's become like my home now. This is really the split on the left between what I'm calling the regressives and people that I think really stand for liberal principles. That's all on the left. But I have some, I have a lot. Look, comedians in general, I think, have hugely strong libertarian leanings because you want to be, I'm a firm believer that the government should have very little to do with our lives.
Yes.
Make sure I don't get shot, which they're not that great at that. Take care of the economy, keep us safe. Like that pretty much is what I think the government's role should be. That's about it. Make sure we have a good education system. The roads should be okay. Like pretty limited stuff. And I think usually for some reason comedians do fall on that scale. Chris Rock is there, Bill Maher. There's a zillion comedians on that side of it. But I've seen a massive split in the left right now. And this goes to all the social justice warrior shit and everyone's a racist and a homophobe. And it's fucking exhausting. And it's well, look, you've had Sam Harris on a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Look what these people have done to Sam Harris. It's insane.
They're just using him as a target. That's what I believe. I believe that instead of looking at his actual positions and being objective and saying, does he have a point? What is his point? Let's debate the point. Let's debate the merits of the point.
Yeah.
Instead, he's a guy that you can point to and say, he has a strong position about Islam, so he is Islamophobic. He is therefore racist, and he should be attacked, and fuck that piece of shit. And I mean, I've seen the same written about Christopher Hitchens.
Yep.
I saw some people when he died that were writing good riddance. And I made fun of this one social justice warrior because he was saying good riddance to Hitchens, but then when Osama bin Laden died, he was like, I am not going to celebrate the death of any human being. I'm like, well, this is fucking hilarious.
This is,
I know what you're doing. You're not thinking. You're writing things. And this is part of the problem with social media. And I think one of the things that we're finding with this whole social justice warrior issue is that it's not necessarily just opinions. It's opinions that are being expressed in a way where they know people are going to hear it. They know people are going to see their writing. And so that knowledge that someone's going to see what you're writing and react to it, either positive or negative, affects your choices. It's like reality TV. And what they're doing is like when you see people act fake on reality TV because you know that they know the cameras are on them, that's what you're doing when you make a retarded social justice warrior tweet.
You're 100% right. So I know someone, I can't give their name, who right now is pretty big in the reality space, on a reality show right this second. I know them very well. And he says to me all the time, like, that's what he's doing. All he's doing is ramping it up to stay on the show, to keep the whole thing going.
Of course.
And that's what these people are doing. So, Sam, how many times has he been here? At least twice, right?
No, four or five, I think.
4 or 5 times. So you've sat with this guy for hours, right?
Yeah,
you probably have 20
well.
hours with this guy.
At least.
Do you think he's racist in any way
No,
whatsoever?
but you know what he is? He's fearless.
Yes.
And I'm not saying he doesn't have fear of normal consequences of, whatever, danger. It's not that. It's just that if he has a principle, he will express it. And I've disagreed with him about certain points.
Of course.
But his principles and his opinions he will truly express them. And in unpopular subjects, like when you're talking about Islam or you're talking about religion in general, I mean, he takes a tremendous amount of heat about that. And
but he only gets it for Islam, though, right? Because that's the truth of it. Like, this is a guy who wrote Letter to a Christian Nation. Guess what it was about? Christianity.
Yeah.
Nobody called him a Christianophobe, right? So when Bill Maher, that night that the whole thing, all hell broke loose with Affleck on Real Time.
Or Heaven broke loose.
Or Heaven, right, exactly. Whatever you want to call it, some imaginary bullshit. That night, and I know we've both talked about this a ton, but what happened was Affleck immediately went to the social justice warrior. I'm holier than thou. I'm going to protect the downtrodden thing, right? And it was nonsense and bullshit. Sam sat there. Again, you can disagree with the premises of what he says. You can disagree with his feelings on profiling or nuclear first strike, but he'll debate all of those. I sat with him for an hour and a half, and he would have done 3 hours, but our crew guys had to leave. I mean, this is a guy who will stake out these positions and unpopular positions and put them out there, and they just want to shout him down. And what the real thing, though, is it's the chilling effect on that, is that it's not about shutting down Sam. If Sam disappears tomorrow, I think it would be really bad for our discourse as a country, and I think this is a guy saying important shit. But ultimately, guess what? They're going to come for Joe Rogan, they're going to come for Dave Rubin, and they're going to come for all the other people that are tweeting about this shit.
And what they're really doing is just trying to take the moral high ground. They're trying to take a position of being like, first of all, if Ben Affleck had a real nuanced and objective position, he certainly didn't express it on that show.
You mean
it's so racist? It's so racist.
It's racist, yeah.
He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
He really is a fucking idiot.
I don't know that I can go see that Batman movie.
No.
Because he has turned me, I love superhero movies, love them.
Well, the fact that he was willing to take that position on a show like that and argue it like that without, I mean, first of all, I like Bill Maher. I think he's a very funny comic. That show sucks. This is why the show sucks.
I like it a lot.
This is why it sucks.
Yeah.
It doesn't suck because it's a sucky show. It sucks because all these subjects are massively important and have a bunch of people shouting over each other. Like here, like you and I have like very strong opinions and we want to express ourselves, and there's only 2 of us, luckily, because if there was 5 of us in the room right now and we were all talking, it would be really hard to fucking get your points across,
right?
Because you've got to kind of like jump in, and this is what happens when you get a guy like Sam Harris and a guy like Ben Affleck, and Ben Affleck, what you're saying is so racist.
Right.
It's so racist.
Right.
Instead of having an hour to go, okay, well, why don't you tell me why it's racist and give me your thoughts in the Middle East and tell me what you would do about, X amount of people who are so entangled in their ideology that they want death upon people. They wish death upon people who leave the religion.
Yeah.
Tell me what you would do about that. Tell me what you do about people that think that it's wrong to have women go to school. Tell me what you would do about, we're talking about ideologies.
Yeah,
you
we're
can
talking
call
about
it Islam.
ideas.
Yeah, you can call it Islam. You can call it the Moonies. You can call it Scientology. You can call it whatever the fuck you want. But what it really is a rigid set of ideologies. These are ideologies that you are forced to subscribe to a predetermined pattern of behavior and thinking. And if you are not in that predetermined pattern of behavior and thinking, they wish death upon you. And they think that they should be able to stone you if you're a homosexual. They should be able to stone you if you're an adulterer. There's a horrible video online of this poor woman whose father throws the first rock.
Oh, I've seen it.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it.
And she wants to touch him before he kills her, and he won't touch her hand, and then he hits her with the rock.
But think about the absurdity. So there's so much here, right? So think about the absurdity of this, that the hatred for these people, the hatred for Sam, for Bill Maher. So whether you like Bill Maher or not, or
I
like
do
the
like
show,
Bill Maher. And when I say it sucks, what I
know
mean
what
is
you mean, like the
those
construct.
formats. All those talk show formats suck. Those split screen Bill O'Reilly things where Bill talks and three experts shout, "We'll be right back." There's not enough time.
Yeah, look, Bill Maher loves Bernie Sanders, obviously. He had him on the show last week. He only had 6 minutes with him.
That's crazy.
Imagine what me or you would do with that guy if he was here right now. We could literally talk all day.
And he should.
And he should. And that's the
Bill
thing.
should have a show like that.
Sure.
Where it's just Bill sitting down with these people and not being forced into that fucking soundbitey type of conversation because that's what they're doing.
Well, listen, I love Bill, but I'll do that show. How about that?
There you go.
Thank you for that.
Bill's got his own archaic fucking...
Let him... That's fine.
I just think that format is like everybody thinks that everybody needs to be like fast. It's not the case.
Well, look, I think both of us are proof that it's not the case.
Yeah.
I think for a long time, everything was getting smaller and smaller. The internet burst this thing. Twitter came out. We're going to talk in 140 characters. Vine came out 6 seconds. So everything kept getting smaller. But what I'm absolutely seeing now, we've only been doing my show in its current incarnation for 2 months. Sam was my first guest. This was first week in September. And we started doing long form stuff again, exactly what you're doing here. And what I've seen is the longer we go, the more we extrapolate ideas, talk about stuff, and don't scream at each other.
Yes.
I'm bringing on people on the right and on the left. And the more that we do this, the more people want. So I think there's a bounce back now from that short thing, where everybody on television, they start, and it's partly like a show that I love on ESPN, Pardon the Interruption, and they would have the countdown going, and everything had to be quick. But I think people are actually ready for this. And I think clearly, and I don't think it, that's why this is working for you. You know what I mean? People want to actually hear a couple of thoughts. Let's hear two things that don't necessarily line up. And let's hear people that, listen, I hope that plenty of people that will be listening to this will disagree with me, will disagree with you. And at the end, we'll go, well, it's not because they're racist, but they got some ideas that let's challenge those ideas.
Well, I think the entertainment aspect of those shows where there's like 5 people in a room, and then also you have a fucking audience that cheers when they agree.
Yeah.
And some of them are just so lefty, so super, like fucking applauding at every point.
But Bill's good because he shuts up his own audience.
He does.
Which I've literally seen him do stand-up where he's yelled at the audience for giving him applause breaks. How many times have you ever seen that in a comedy show? That's pretty good.
Yeah. And during his show, he does do that when people chime in. But I just think that the entertainment aspect of expressing yourself almost sometimes takes precedent over the concepts and the ideas themselves because it's all in how you deliver it and how forcefully you can get it past the other people that are trying to say contrary points.
So the Ben Affleck thing is the perfect example of that because by yelling out gross and racist within a minute, right? So think about it, it's pretty much the worst thing you can say about somebody, right? To call them racist. That's pretty, beyond you're a child molester or something, it's pretty much the worst thing you can say. Think about if you were having an argument with somebody about this stuff. Let's say you were privately arguing with someone about Islam and religion and blah, blah, blah. It would take a while for you to call them racist, right? Like you wouldn't.
You would have to go deep into it.
You'd have to go pretty deep by the time that you personally got there to that place where you were to say you're racist.
I don't think I would probably say that idea is racist
before
I would even say you're racist because I got to think that like when some people will say, well, I have black friends. Well, what do you like about black people? Like you go into that and at the end of it, well, they smell different. And, I like to be around people that are dumber than me. Okay, you're a fucking racist.
Now you're a racist.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
but that illustrates your point perfectly. That the problem with these shows and the problem with this discussion and problem with social justice, it's all like a perfect storm of craziness. Because the next day after that show, all the online sites, Mediaite, everybody, the headlines were all Ben Affleck calls Bill Maher and Sam Harris racist. So suddenly the onus was on them to prove that they're not racist.
Exactly.
That is, not only is that bonkers, but I asked Sam about this, and he said something that I thought was fascinating. He was on that show to discuss his book called Waking Up, which is a spiritual guide to it's a guide to spirituality without religion. So he's talking about meditation. He's talking about inner peace. I've read the book, like some pretty lofty stuff. He said from that point forward, the next 6 months of my life, we're on a book tour about inner peace, but all I had to do was defend myself that I'm not a racist. I mean, really, think how cosmically warped that is.
Well, and it came from, I believe, Ben Affleck wanting to state a position that he felt would be very popular and would resonate and would get him social brownie points.
Yeah, just
I really
social
believe
brownie
that
points.
because what he said, the way he expressed himself, is not nuanced, it's not objective, it's not complex and well thought out, and it's a very, very deep and important subject, a massively important subject. Because what we're talking about in 2015, when you're talking about any ancient religion, you're talking about clinging to these ideas that were formed and ingrained in these communities well before science, well before people had a deep understanding of human psychology, of human nature, of the power of suggestion and culture, and well before we understood the way the world actually works as far as nature, as far as physics, as far as just the formation of the universe. All this information is not applicable to most of the religions in the world today.
Not only are you right, but that's even what Sam wrote in End of Faith.
Right.
That
And Batman tripped him up.
And fucking Batman.
Before the movie even came out, the new Batman.
Like, think how insane that is. If you really step back and dissect what you just said there, that if you took what the average person thought of the world and of science and of medicine and everything that we know of and food and everything in 1840, by that standard now in 2015, that person would look pretty damn dumb.
Right.
Yet for some reason, these books that were written
thousands of years ago,
whatever it is, somehow those have some validity that we should still respect. We shouldn't respect these books. They're ideas. They're ideas that time has long since let go of. So by respecting them, we're actually doing something crazy. If we really want to be free, if we want to be free thinkers and people that I don't give a fuck about anyone's race or religion or sex or sexuality. I judge people on what they say and what they think. And what the social justice warriors are doing, they're trying to win this argument by shutting everybody down.
Yes.
And they're doing it. I think there is a degree of them doing it for lofty reasons. I think Ben Affleck thinks in his lofty, rich Hollywood whatever that he's helping the downtrodden. I think there's some...
I don't think he does.
Really?
No, I'm
So you think
entirely
it's pure...
cynical. You know why?
Yeah.
Because I know too many actors, and I know what they are. Here's the thing about actors, and this is not all actors, obviously. Just like not all comics are heroin addicts and drug addicts and whatever. I think that what it is to be an actor is to pretend to be something else, right? That's what it is, and it's also you have to get past the audition process. And the audition process is essentially saying all the right things. So, Dave, where are you from? Like, where'd you grow up? And you have to who are you voting for this? Like, there's that shit. There's a reason why Hollywood leans almost entirely left.
Right. Do you think they really do? Because I think a lot of them are secretly voting Republican.
Well, there's
for sure. They're voting on taxes,
few,
right?
You got your Charleston Hestons and your fucking, there's a few John Voights out there, and the guy from was it? We'll be back in 2 and 2. What the fuck's his
Chuck
name?
Woolery.
Chuck Woolery is
he's
like
a big
hardcore.
I
follow him on Twitter just to laugh at all the fucking Republican shit that he writes.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a few Hollywood conservatives. Obviously, Chuck Woolery is not in any big movies or anything like that, but there is always going to be a few conservatives in Hollywood. But the casting people, the producers, the executives, overwhelmingly left-leaning.
Yeah.
And to be in that club, you have to agree with them. And there's a problem with that whole audition process when it comes to actors. You can't work unless someone approves you. Unless someone takes you in and accepts you and chooses you. Dave, you're the right guy for the part. Yes.
Yeah, now
And you can't say anything controversial that will fuck that up. And then you're essentially like you're on a dating program for the world. Not dating like you're trying to get laid, but like you're trying to get the world to love you.
Yeah.
So when a guy like Ben Affleck, who's been doing this his whole life, gets on that show and someone says something that he thinks, I can get in here and make some fucking points. I can get some social brownie points up on the board. I think that's racist. You're racist and this is gross. He's just like a guy at an audition. He's full of shit.
You know what, Rogan? I'm going to prove to you right now that I don't just say shit, but I believe it because you've changed my mind. That argument was good enough that you've changed my mind, that I do agree that he wasn't doing it out of some lofty thing, that it's purely that. There might be maybe we can split hairs a little bit and it's 80-20 or whatever, but I think that actually does make more sense. And it also, it explains why it happened within a minute, because he was ready for it to happen before the segment even started. So I'll go with that.
I think there are also sociopaths that get involved in philanthropic ventures to make themselves look good.
Oh, sure.
I absolutely 100% believe that some people do some philanthropic shit so that it makes them look better. And this is like sort of to mask the psychosis that bubbles below the surface of their skin that they're trying to hide from people. Like, you can't go after me. I work with the firefighters. Right. You know, I support the first responders. The responders. You know, I'm down with the firefighters. You can't call me a plagiarist. Yeah. But you can't like Sandusky. Like look what he was doing. Working with little kids, helping all these little kids. Well, surely that guy's not fucking them.
Yeah.
How could he do that? He loves the children. I mean, that is the kind of shit that happens with a lot of evil people.
So this is interesting. So for comics, then it really is particularly bizarre because there's the approval thing, right? And comics want approval just the same way actors do. But comics are also the good ones, and unfortunately there's not many of us left, that you're supposed to stake out controversial positions.
Yeah.
So that goes against the sort of mass approval thing.
But it does it in comedy.
But right now, is counterculture cool right now? Is there any comic? There's a couple people, I guess, that are doing some counterculture stuff.
Okay,
that are getting cred for.
Define counterculture.
Well, counterculture, that you'd be really against the government, you'd be against the administration. You know, you'd be fighting more for some of the things that I think we're doing with the social justice warrior stuff, fighting for free speech relentlessly, fighting against bad ideas. So you could be fighting against the ideas of Islam without being racist, or not even a race, but without being bigoted towards Muslim people. Like right now, I think partially because of Obama, it's cool to like the president. You know what I mean? Just he's black, he's cool. I'd love to play basketball with him. I'm sure he'd be fun to have a drink with. So it's cool to like the power right now. So in a weird way, I think if we have a Republican president next time, comedy's going to get a lot better real quick because it's going to be a lot easier to attack.
But is it cool to like him if you look at the facts? Is it cool to like him when you look at the way he's attacked whistleblowers?
No, but nobody's talking about that. That's my point.
People are. There's plenty of people are. They are in podcasts.
Yeah?
Yeah. You know, I know a lot of really smart people that are attacking it. You know,
all right, well,
guys like
that's
Duncan Trussell, Kurt Metzger. I know a lot of like very smart comics that just think it's fucking gross that you've got a guy that's killed more innocent people with drones or been responsible for being the commander-in-chief of the greatest army the world has ever known that has caused thousands of people to die innocently through drone strikes. You know, they're shooting at cell phones. They're shooting missiles at where a cell phone is, and that's what metadata is.
Look, we just blew up that hospital.
Yes,
I mean we blew up that hospital, and you know, we could get into a whole thing about the Middle East, but like there's terrible shit. The whistleblower thing, I think, is a good spot.
Yeah,
because
did you hear Edward Snowden on Neil deGrasse Tyson's show?
No, I didn't.
You should listen to it. It's amazing.
Okay,
it's great, but. Please go on.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's what Obama's doing right now. That's what he's doing. There's a reason that Obama, you know, a lot of people on the left, the progressives, when Obama got in, immediately were like, you know, he has to try, you know, Cheney for war crimes and blah, blah, blah. And there's a reason why he didn't. That wasn't just about power. It was also because he's killing a lot of people with drones right now. And 20 years from now, he doesn't want that President Willow Smith or whoever it's going to be, to come in and be like...
Willow Smith? Is that like Jada
that's
Pinkett
the sister?
Smith?
Isn't that
really?
the sister?
Is she going to win?
Probably. Maybe... I guess Jaden probably would be the president first, or I don't know. But like whoever it's going to be it's going to be one of them.
Meanwhile, I might vote for Will. How about that?
You'd vote for Will?
I might vote for Will Smith.
Yeah? Is he running?
I don't know, but he's a smart motherfucker, and I like when I listen to him talk.
Yeah?
I think he's a balanced and intelligent guy that expresses himself very well. He's extremely well read.
But is he a Scientologist?
I don't think he's a Scientologist, but I think he's dabbled. So is Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I bought Dianetics. I bought it online. Not even online. I got it from one of those late night infomercials in 1994 when I first moved to Hollywood.
Oh, I remember those commercials were on all the time in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm in the middle of Lawrence Wright's Going Clear. I can't read it for too long, man. I go to other books because I read it for like a few chapters and I go, fuck this. And I put, because it's so crazy.
Well, did you watch the thing on HBO?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched
it. I started the book first, then I watched the thing on HBO, and then I keep going back to the book, but I haven't finished it. It's got like probably, I'm probably halfway in, but I can't. You know what's weird about Kindles? You don't see that you're halfway in. Like you see numbers. Like I like a thickness thing where like I'm down to the bottom. I got like a very thin remainder.
You know there's an end game.
Yes.
Yeah.
But even the numbers on that doesn't mean anything to me. Those numbers at the bottom that show, you're on page 100 or 500 pages. It's not registering.
How do you decide, as someone in this space, how much information to put in your brain? Because that's one of the things that
Huge problem.
Yeah, I struggle with this all the time because I love politics, and I told you I've been going to the spin rooms. We can talk about some politics stuff later. And I love all that stuff, and I love current events, and I love Mideast politics, and I love talking about religion, all of this shit. Like I love all of it. That's what I'm here for, right? On this earth, that's what I'm here for. But I do find sometimes I can't. There's just too much coming into my brain.
Yes.
And then when you have sitting on the couch and I'm watching Seinfeld, which I should be the time that I can shut my brain down, right? An episode that I've seen 150 times before, that I know every line coming out, and I have my iPad and I have my iPhone and my laptop's there, and I'm doing this, and it's like Minority Report from hell, And I really struggle with that, like shutting it down sometimes, and I'm not even just talking about the devices, but just actually the stuff that you're putting in your brain all the time, and you got to know your shit. It's tough.
Well, fortunately, I don't necessarily really have to know my shit.
No, but you know your shit.
But all I have to do is say, I'm not sure about that, and I'm okay because I'm a comedian. Like,
right?
But you know what I mean? Like, especially in these sort of conversations, like you and I, we exchange some emails about some stuff that'd be cool to talk about, but we don't have a format. Obviously, we're all over the place. We're gay discos, and Ben Affleck's a douche, and Bill Maher's formats are antiquated, and there's. You can only have so much information in your head. And this is part of the problem that I have with this Going Clear book. Why I keep going to it and then going to other shit. It's because I feel like, why am I fucking reading so much about this sociopath, fucking nightmare, crazy cult leader dude that has formed this insane religion? Because I can't. Part of me can't put it down. Part of me, I start reading about all the crazy shit that he did and how nutty this guy really was, and how many people followed his wacky ideas. It becomes fascinating.
You could be talking about Scientology or any religion.
I could, yeah.
Some wacky guy with some crazy ideas that thought somebody was talking to him. Next thing you know, followers and a lot of cash.
Well, there's obviously there's different ones, and some of them, their followers, like Mormons, are like notoriously nice people. Like that was one of the weirdest religions because they're so nice. But then like, if you go to Islam, Muhammad was a warlord. Yeah. And you got a very different type of religion when, first of all, you're dealing with the environment that these people live in is extremely hostile. As far as like the temperature is extremely hot, the battle for natural resources is very difficult. And you're also dealing with the cradle of civilization. And I have this bit about Islam that never really came to fruition, but not even Islam, but the Middle East rather, but that the Middle East is essentially like they're the townies of the world because that's where culture was created. And everybody, look, human beings were created in Africa. That's where the first human beings came from, by however method, whether you believe in evolution.
There was an alien that dropped some shit. I saw
that Prometheus.
Fucking terrible.
It's not that good.
I watched it the other day.
I wanted it to be good.
I wanted it to be good. I watched the beginning again, with the guy, and he comes down and he splits the thing, and I was like, what happened here?
Yeah. The idea is that he seeded the world with his DNA, and then he knew somehow or another would develop into human beings.
But why did Charlize Theron not move a little to the left when the thing was falling? Remember the end?
Oh, yeah.
There's the giant ship, and it's falling, and all she has to do, she's running straight, and the ship's falling this way, and it's slow. Real slow.
Yeah.
All she had to do is go a little
panic attack.
She just freaked.
She freaked out.
She locked. All right.
She panicked. I don't know. We could get into that all day.
She made up for it in Mad Max.
Yeah.
Because that was awesome.
What was my point? What the fuck we're going on?
I took you somewhere there. Prometheus, beginning of the world, Mesopotamia.
But
Everyone's
human
from there.
beings, came from this. I mean, the most ancient version of a human being. Like I think they think that we're in this current form. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're thinking it's like 250,000 plus years, right? So whatever that was, at one point in time, they left Africa, and a lot of them settled in the Middle East. Egypt, of course, is a part of Africa, but it is in the Middle East officially. And they spread out all throughout the country. But the oldest, what we know today, as far as we know, the oldest written language, the oldest agriculture, the oldest government structure was Sumer. And that's where Iraq is. You know, you're dealing with like 6,000 plus years ago. Mm-hmm. That's Iraq. I mean, that's the cradle of civilization. It's a fucking shithole. A crazy, wacky, fucked up civil war. The Muslims are fighting the Muslims. The Shiites and the Sunnis are blowing each other up on roadside bombs. And it's chaos. It's chaos. And when you get to these parts of the world that are amongst the most ancient cultures, you have what I call the echoes of savages. It's like the culture has lasted for so long, and the reverberations of these ancient ideas that have been long disproven, and they're still there. They're permeated.
Look, that's why the Middle East especially, we could also talk about Israel-Palestine if you want, all of it is such a clusterfuck because, so you could take someone like Sam who will talk about it from the religious part, right? And he'll mostly blame religion. And then you can take a lot of my friends on the left and they say it's all geopolitics and they usually blame the United States. The truth is, and as I said before, we have to have two thoughts at once, and I know it's very hard for people to be able to do that. It's both. It is both in the most extreme ways. Look, first off, Iraq and Syria right now are not even countries. By any estimation of what a functioning country is that would partake in the world thing.
Right. Nor is Libya.
Libya's not. And look, we did.
Yeah.
So think about Libya for a second. Obama did that. No congressional authorization, right? Everyone goes crazy on Bush about Iraq. Now, obviously, in retrospect, the Iraq war is pretty bad, and you can clearly make a line to it led to ISIS, which then has now destabilized the whole thing. But he at least had congressional authorization. Now, maybe he lied, or we know that they were planting evidence and all that. But Obama went into Libya right when he became president with no congressional authorization. I have no idea what's going on in Libya right now. Is it a country?
Have you seen Bourdain's show on it, the CNN show?
I don't think has there been a Libya one.
Yeah,
I was just watching it last night about Ethiopia.
Yeah, that show's amazing.
Yeah,
by the way.
He's amazing.
But you know, it's it was shit when Gaddafi was running it. Yep. Obviously, it was a horrible, horrible place, and he was a terrible, evil dictator. But when you remove a dictator, you create a vacuum, and that vacuum gets sucked up by people that want to try to claim power.
Yeah. Well, this is the strange thing about the neocons, right? So neocons believe that we should use our American power to either nation build or, look, I know, and everyone on the left will say, well, they're doing it because we want their natural resources. Like, it's one of these things that there's a zillion reasons why everyone wants some piece of that part of the world. But people will say, well, Iraq was better off with Saddam. He was doing horrible things to his people. He was using mustard gas on the Kurds, right? I think it was the Kurds. Yeah. So we've backed leaders. Mubarak in Egypt was our guy. We backed him. Then they overthrew him. Then we backed the Muslim Brotherhood. Then they overthrew them. Now we're backing another Mubarak guy. Like, our policies are all crazy. It's all military-industrial complex. And it's just this endless cycle of craziness over there.
I mean, you can't get any crazier than having a guy like Dick Cheney as the vice president, who's the CEO of Halliburton, a company that rebuilds places that we blow up.
It sounds like a Schwarzenegger movie, right? Like he's the bad guy in a Schwarzenegger movie from the 80s, or the bad guy in Rambo. I mean, it's almost so obvious, and that's why we can't believe it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're showing it to us.
Exactly.
Here's what it is, guys. No big deal. Halliburton, by the way, they're doing a lot of shit in Iraq right now. You think it's a coincidence?
Not only that, they got no bid contracts.
No,
they didn't have to bid. We have to bid. They didn't have other people competing.
What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
We hope that information and the distribution of information that's available today that was barely available when Bush was in office.
Yeah.
And we hope that the spread of that and the understanding of that will balance out all this shit. And I'm hoping that that's the case with social justice warriors. I'm hoping that's the case with these right-wing fucking fanatics that want to blow up and bomb and invade everything that doesn't believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that all that stuff gets balanced out, because I think the amount of change that we've experienced in our lifetime is unprecedented.
Yeah.
Cultural change, informational change has been the big one. The invention of the internet, I fully believe that when we go back and historians look at this point in time, they see it as an explosion of change, like a veritable explosion of ideas and of the ability to express themselves. And your show represents that. Your podcast represents that. You don't have anybody telling you what to do.
Yeah.
You could talk about whatever you want. There's no studio execs who come in and go, stop, Dave, we got to get off this subject. Dave, you can't talk about Ben Affleck. We're doing a film with Ben. One of our subsidiaries is very upset with this and that and that.
Yeah.
The affiliates are calling in right now. They want to cancel our program. We're going to have to figure out a way to do this better. You said some bad things about Abilify, and Abilify is one of our new sponsors, and you should ask your doctor about it, because maybe you need it.
Yeah, and then my cloud gets even bigger. That's hanging over me all the time. It's warped. But yeah, I'm with you. But do you think we've gotten to a breaking point with that? Because I think one of the reasons that I wanted to do this with you, and I've been harassing you to come on my show forever, is because I see the things that we're talking about and our audiences are so interlaced, right? And I really, really believe it has a lot to do with the Sam thing, but I think we're close to the tipping point of defeating the social justice warriors. I really think
they're
close.
eating themselves.
They're right. Well, because identity politics ultimately has to eat itself. That's the fatal flaw. So that they'll take someone like Bernie Sanders, who stands for every fucking progressive principle known to man. He doesn't want money in politics. He's everything that the left wants. And what happens? He has Black Lives Matter people grabbing the mic away from him a month ago, screaming he doesn't care enough about Black lives. When there's no reason to believe that. But if you parse everyone down to their one issue. So if you say that these people are only going to care about Black Lives Matter, and these people are only going to care about abortion, and these people are only going to care about Islam, or whatever it is, ultimately you're just a group of people who ultimately have interests that have nothing to do with each other, and you're going to destroy each other. And that's why I think the reaction to this is so good and so powerful. And I think it's real. It's happening right now. I could feel it.
Well, when that Black Lives Matter thing happened, those girls were screaming, and he was saying we're going to give them the microphone afterwards. Like, what? That is not how you get to express yourself. That's not how you do it. You don't interrupt and decide that your message is more important than their message.
Yeah, and of course at the same time...
And in their format, in their place, with their microphone.
At the same time, what did they probably end up doing? I don't have any empirical evidence on this, but they probably ended up strengthening the people that don't like them. You see what this is doing? So there's so much to it, but that's why I think the social justice warrior thing, and it has a lot, the Sam thing in the way that they treated him. I'm talking about, Glenn Greenwald and Reza and my former boss, Cenk, who I know you've had on here. The way these people treated him and this dishonest attack on ideas, that it came from the left. We're supposed to debate ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're on the left.
Right.
So what does liberalism stand for? We believe in the debate of ideas. You could say the people on the right, well, they're more dogmatic. They're more religious. They don't want to debate ideas. So I can't deal with those people. The right went off the deep end a long time ago. What I have to care about as someone that's on the left and that believes in liberal principles and doesn't want to see gays thrown off the roof in Syria and all of that shit, doesn't mean I want to invade Syria, doesn't mean I want a nation build, but I should be able to talk about that without being called a racist or whatever it is. And I think we've hit something here.
I think one of the things that we've hit is there are people that are balanced and that are socially aware and that are fun and interesting to talk to. And then there's social retards. And social retards that form on the left, they tend to be unbelievably aggressive and douchey about really good ideas.
Yeah.
Like whether it's Black Lives Matter or whether it's supporting gay rights or whether it's transgender rights or any of the ideas that I'm sure you and I could both agree with. Mm-hmm. What they're doing and the way they're doing it is they found something that gives them the green light to be an asshole. And one of the things they're doing in being an asshole is they're making up for being picked on. They're making up for being rejected. They're making up for the abuse that they've suffered at other people's hands that have caused them to have this unbalanced social persona. And that's what it's all about. It's about social retards with really good points.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, you're on it. So you could use the gay rights thing as a great example of that. So, look, we didn't have gay marriage until officially it was June 26th, happened to be my birthday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
On your birthday.
On my birthday, the Supreme Court said,
that has to feel
I wasn't,
good.
I was engaged already at the time, but I kind of liked the idea of getting gay married when it wasn't fully legal, because then I thought I'd be like running from the law or something. Like that had some sort of badass.
You're going to be a rebel.
Yeah, I was going to be like hunting a guy with one arm, who killed my wife. None of it made sense, but I had this idea of something in my head. But anyway, if you take that movement, look, it happened pretty damn quick. I know gay people have wanted rights for a long time, but if you take the last 5 years, the way this thing has evolved, and now it's cooler. Look, you're a straight white man. Pretty much the worst thing there is, right? I mean, that's
what I hear.
Yeah, you're just awful. Even sitting here with you has
person.
It's been very grating for me. But if you look at the gay rights thing, the left was all about it, and they love gays, they love gays, they love gays. But at the end of the day, now gays have equal rights. Now I know there's still job issues and there's some stuff. But
how about that fucking lady in Kentucky that?
Yeah. Oh, we can. We can
Kim
get
Davis.
Her. Right. So there's still all kinds of shit. I don't mean to say that everything's perfect.
There's
now.
resistance.
But the point is, the Supreme Court, the law of the land now is equal in terms of marriage.
Yes.
But what I realized sort of halfway through that was it's not that the left really cares about gays as much as sort of this idea sort of what you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, now that gay people have equality, well, guess what? Suddenly gay people might start voting Republican because they might want to vote on taxes. They might, so the identity politics thing is only good for a little while. And then once everyone's equal, it's just a way of pitting people against each other.
Yeah, then you really just become a fat person with pink hair.
Yeah.
That's all you are.
Right.
You're not this amazing person with this moral high ground that stands above and gets to proclaim how they've been fighting for rights and screaming and yelling and crying. You're screaming and yelling and crying because you're socially retarded.
Why are these people, by the way, why are they all anonymous? If they're so lofty in their...
There's plenty that aren't anonymous.
No. I mean, I know there's public ones, but I'm not talking about them. But I mean, the people that'll be yelling at me over some social justice shit. What?
But they're
so
on the
lofty.
right as well, though.
Oh, yeah. But that's what I mean. I'm not defending... I think people sort of think that somehow I'm defending the right. Mm-hmm. There is nothing I agree with these people on. You know what I mean? I have to clean my house, and my house is on the left. So I want the left to be better. I fully believe now that the regressives, which is what the progressives have become, because their ideas are now regressive, not progressive, that they are the Tea Party of the left. Mm-hmm. And if the Republicans, if the average conservative, whether you agree with them or not, 5 years ago, when the Tea Party was gaining strength and we're not going to negotiate with anyone and government shutdowns and all that, if the average conservative had said, these are our principles, whether you agree or not, we believe in limited government, all of that stuff, low taxes, whatever, strong defense, if they would have said that, they might have been able to reel the Tea Party in a little bit. But instead, they just went to the worst piece of them. And I see it happening with us on the left. And that's why I'm so against the regressive left. We got to bring them back, because otherwise we're going to have the regressive left and we're going to have the Tea Party. And guess what? The gig is up.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that it's what you find in the universe. You find this extremely broad range. You find a spectrum. And in that spectrum, you have completely psychotic on one side and completely psychotic on the other side.
So it's that horseshoe thing, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end, they're the same, yeah.
And then it really is. I mean, and then there's a balance. And I think that I think a lot of us, given different circumstances, could be swayed to have different points of view and different ideas. And I'm also pulled... not in a sense like logically, but I find myself compelled when I see people that are really religious. When I listen to like some Muslim guy that's speaking with great confidence about the power of Islam and the truth of Islam, I find myself compelled. I don't believe it. I don't support it as an ideology, but I'm fascinated by the natural human compulsion to want to join that. The natural human, like there's something about someone who is unbelievably confident in what they're doing is the right thing and is proclaiming it publicly and loudly through a microphone that makes you go, wow, maybe he's right. Islam is the truth. And everyone's cheering.
Kind of like Hitler.
Exactly like Hitler.
Yeah, but that's why
it's a human nature thing.
It is human nature. And look, if that's why they attract all these people. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt that that's what's going on here. And what we have to do, listen, I don't know what's going on in the universe in the scheme of, I have no freaking idea. But that doesn't that's fertile ground for someone having to make that leap of faith and being like, I don't have any idea. So I'm going to follow the 10 Commandments. I mean, I'm pretty much I don't believe in religion in any way whatsoever. But I get if we were to have the 10 Commandments here, I'm probably sure I'm pretty much following them because they're just basic. I don't kill people. I don't covet my neighbor's wife. That's a gay thing, but like
that was actually a property thing,
Oh yeah,
the neighbor's wife
course.
was his property. By coveting, I mean like taking her.
Yeah, but I mean the point is that you can live your life, as I think both of us do, and probably most of your listeners do. You can have a set of principles that has nothing to do with religion. And
which is what waking up is about.
Yeah, that's exactly what waking up is about. And that's the crazy part of what the left is doing here. There's this onslaught against new atheists. Mm-hmm. So against Sam and Richard Dawkins and Hitchens, even though he's not around anymore. And I didn't know what new atheists were even. So I started asking some people. And my friend Kyle said, I think it's just an atheist who's finally saying, I'm here. Because for a long time, atheists wouldn't even say that they were here. And now you have the far left is the ones that are attacking atheists. Isn't it supposed to be the far right attacking the people who don't want anything to do with religion? It's incredibly warped.
Yeah, it is incredibly warped, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And there was a really recent, have you seen Sam Harris's, there's something I tweeted a few days ago, Sam Harris it's on something called Secular Talk. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, so Kyle is the guy,
yes.
So Kyle that I just, he's the friend that said to me about the new atheist thing. Yeah. So they picked up basically where our conversation ended, because when I did that, and then you're going to play a clip?
No, I'm not, but I was going to say that Sam...
Snapped.
He snapped. I wouldn't say snapped, but
by his
he said snapped.
Yeah.
That's how he described it too. But he expressed himself about what's really going on with these people, whether it's Greenwald or I'll let him, pick who it was and what it. But if you listen to it, it's the thing. The channel on YouTube is called Secular Talk, and the title of it is Sam Harris on Progressivism, Torture, Religion, and Foreign Policy. It's fucking fantastic because he's so elegant as well, but eloquent, and he just nails it perfectly. He expressed what's going on.
So is that the inherent problem then? Because what I see, when I did my sit down with Sam, I laid it out very clearly. I said to him, Sam, let's take the 5 things that people misquote you about the most, and let's make it very YouTube friendly so that when these crazy people are screaming about you, anyone on Twitter can be like, here's a link, give it 5 minutes. So we did it. And he laid out, the profiling. He laid out the nuclear first strike. He laid out all Muslims versus Islam. All that Islam is the mother lode of bad ideas, which he did backtrack a little bit. Because again, it's about ideas, not the slanders, right? So that's how we laid it out. And then we did the whole thing. And I felt when I was done with that sit down, again, this was my first episode of my show, I was like, I'm done with this topic. I felt I had added a little something to this. I had helped the discourse a little bit. And then suddenly, right after that, they all were worse. All of them. Glenn, Reza, Cenk, they all doubled down. Literally, Glenn retweeted a misquote from our interview that Sam said. It was something about, Sam mentions profiling, and he's talking about Jerry Seinfeld. He's talking about Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian Jerry Seinfeld, should not be profiled. That this is a guy who should be able to walk right through because it's a silly use of resources.
Yes.
To have. Glenn retweets something where they said people who look like Jerry Seinfeld. Completely not what he said.
Well, first of all, Jerry Seinfeld easily could be Arab. So that's ridiculous.
I think one of his parents is Syrian, actually.
That's a ridiculous thing to say.
Right. So not look like him.
Yeah.
By the way, when Sam does the profiling, he talks about how he should be profiled.
Based on his own looks?
Yeah. Because he's a middle-aged man, and if a middle-aged white guy, whatever, he's not even talking about the race in this instance. That if me and you were right now going to LAX, that we should be profiled. They should look at 2 guys of a certain age and whatever their criteria are, not based on race or religion, but there should be some more, they should look at us in a more curious way than perhaps an 80-year-old Dutch woman that's in a wheelchair or like he's trying to have smart profiling or what he calls anti-profiling.
The problem with profiling really is you're getting profiled by people that are so fucking dumb they work for the TSA.
Right. So
that's a real issue.
Right.
Because I read this whole thing that they give people like recognizing facial expressions, like get the fuck out of here. Have you ever like paused for a minute when you're looking for something and been a fly on the wall while the TSA agents are talking to each other about what they want to eat or what this bitch was saying to me and barely paying any attention? They're just folks working a job. You know, that's what they are. They're folks that got a job.
Well, to that point, I mean, look, if we really wanted to profile in the way that profiling should be done, then you have to do it the way the Israelis do it, which is that they have cameras on everybody watching every bit of body language and every bit of nuance. I mean, even I went to Israel, I think in '97. And to get in, had to go in a separate room, and they asked me every question you could possibly think of. I'm a Jew from Long Island. I was profiled. You know what I mean? Like that. But they're not doing it out of fun. They just don't want their planes to explode. And I had to explain something about where my bar mitzvah was. I mean, really crazy shit. But I'm pretty sure they would prefer not to have to do that.
Right.
And I didn't walk away going, "Oh man, profiling like that's the worst thing in the world." There are certain things that are this is a very difficult discussion to have, because the social justice warriors make it so that even when we're talking about this now, there's this feeling that somehow I'm for profiling. I mean,
I think they should just be ignored, these so-called social justice warriors. And I think that as time's going on, they're becoming so ridiculous that they're easy to ignore.
They're doing it to themselves.
There was a great story that I tweeted a couple days ago. Anti-feminist speaker disinvited to uncomfortable learning, in quotes, lecture series because she made students uncomfortable.
But don't they have safe spaces?
But listen to this, man. The thing is called uncomfortable learning. That is the lecture series.
Okay.
And they disinvited her because she made students uncomfortable. I mean, this is fucking madness. I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about here.
Also, think how dangerous it is to do this to college kids.
Yes.
More than anything else, because first off, you're drugging the kids, right? We know that they're all on Ritalin and all that shit,
SSRIs,
right? They're on all that. Now they go to college. Mm-hmm. Even the ones that aren't on that shit, but they go to college. College is supposed to be where you figure out what your sort of base ideas are before you go out into the real world. If you're going to silence, colleges, Brandeis University silenced Ayaan Hirsi Ali.
Yes.
Think I have her on my show next week. Like,
yeah.
I want to go into that. Like, what insanity. You know what I mean?
How could they?
I mean, it's perverse at the highest.
What is their dispute?
Well, because I think the argument was that she doesn't like Islam.
But she was raised in it.
Almost killed. Her coworker, Van Gogh's grandson or whatever, was killed.
Yes.
On the street in Holland.
Yeah. For a cartoon.
Yeah. And she's talking about ideas. Again, and this is what Sam says all the time. We have to talk about ideas, not people. What other set of ideas would we be afraid to talk about?
What is going on in universities, though? Is it the students that are dictating the policy by protesting? And is it the professors?
I think it's coming from the professors, partly for what you said before about Affleck. Mm-hmm. Like, there's this idea, if you want to be a professor, sort of, and Gad Saad talks about this a lot because he is a college professor, and I know he's had his struggles as someone that is outing this bullshit. I think he's had his professional struggles. Mm-hmm. I think in our interview he talked a little bit about some exchanges he's had with other professors where they don't want to touch some of his ideas,
right?
Because of not that he's talking about anything really controversial at the end of the day.
They don't want to touch it, but it's because of the pressure rather from the students.
No, I think it's coming first. I think it's coming first from the professors or even whatever's above that. I don't know if it's the administrations or even whatever is above that. Like, I don't know how high you have to go with it, but I don't think it's the kids that are doing it. I think they're being fed shit and they're being fed fear and stupidity, and then they just they just sort of rally around.
Well, there's also a real problem in colleges, I believe, that these people that operate in academia have only worked in academia and they don't really understand the real world because they aren't in it.
Yeah.
And they're in a position of power with young people.
Yeah.
So their ideas have incredible influence. They're standing on this stage, teaching these lectures, teaching these classes, and they have these young, impressionable people that are listening to them. This gives them a gigantic ego boost. They have this platform, and they've never competed in the real world. They've never contributed to the real world other than teaching children.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them like that have gone through the educational system and then gone from the educational system directly into teaching, and then this is their universe.
Yeah.
This is how they exist.
And these people are pretty much all part of the regressive left. I mean, they are pretty much all part of it. So you could think, here's a simple example of this. So there's a difference between debating ideas and hate speech. So let's say somebody that hated Muslim people wanted to speak at a college and was going to talk about how we should kick them out of the country or we should, whatever, do horrible things to them. I could see absolutely protest that person. Use your right of free speech and free assembly to protest that person's ideas. Should the college not let them come? if it was purely hate, I suppose, but I know that's a really slippery slope because everyone,
Right.
Versus you could take any of these people, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, she's not against Muslim people. She's against the doctrine, these ideas. And if we can't make the distinction between hate speech and someone who wants to debate ideas, if you can't do that in college, then where the hell else can you do that?
Not only that, try getting some inflammatory quotes by Ayaan Hirsi Ali that you could argue against that aren't really well thought out, that aren't articulate, that aren't based on her personal experiences growing up in this religion, her understanding of the scripture. Like, try finding some ignorant hate in that.
But look,
you're not going to.
These guys don't want to debate ideas. It's really as simple as that. So at the very personal level, I can tell you. So you've had Cenk on. He was my former boss for 2 years at TYT. He watched the original thing with Sam and then sat down with Sam for 3 hours.
Right.
Did you see any
Yes,
of that?
I did. I watched the whole thing.
3 hours. I watched that thing. I was working for him at the time. Literally, I was like this the entire time because I was having a headache because I could not believe that this person that I work for, who I respect, who I play basketball with every Sunday, that he was so dense to the ideas that Sam was portraying. And at the end of it, just as I said to you before, that at the end of mine, I thought I had made this conversation a little bit better. Cenk only doubled down on all of this shit because they don't want to debate ideas. They just want Sam to be discredited so that their ideas win. And that's why we have to fight against it. Because if Sam disappears, as I said earlier, if Sam disappears tomorrow, it's not about him. It's about all the ideas that we'll all be afraid to talk about. That's why Charlie Hebdo cartoons, you should be able to, Family Guy can do whatever the fuck they want on Jesus, right? Every episode, there's an episode where Jesus is bathing with porn music in the background in front of Stewie, a baby. Nobody had a problem with that. Try doing that with Muhammad. But we can't just pick. You can't pick. Say whatever the fuck you want about Judaism. Big goddamn deal.
What is it with Cenk? You know him. That was really perplexing to me because I usually feel like whether I agree with him or don't agree with him on other things, I feel like he's got an opinion. He thinks about it. He talks about it. He tries to be open-minded. He's passionate about these ideas. But with that, it was so confusing to me because it was almost like he was just trying to win.
Look,
it was like he was trying to find a way to beat someone who is, Sam is an intellectual black belt.
Yeah.
I mean, like a high-level world champion black belt of the spoken word. And I think that Cenk is not at the same level as Sam when it comes to debating these ideas.
At one point, about 20 minutes in, Sam lays out some basic probability stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Cenk just says he doesn't believe in it. I mean, that sort of explains it right there. Like, Sam wasn't laying out, he was just saying this is sort of how probability works.
Right.
And Cenk was like, no, I don't believe in it. I don't know. And just for the record, I get no pleasure even talking about this because you know what it's like.
Did you debate Cenk or have a conversation with him off the air about this?
No, we didn't because it just never materialized. You know what I mean? A lot of times although I did do the main Young Turk show with him a lot, most of the time as I was on it was because he was out of town. So I was either filling in or something like that. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't really the forum for that. And then it really had a lot to do with why I left because I just could not believe it. There's people that have edited things where Cenk says one thing directly to Sam's face and then days later is saying the complete reverse thing, sitting down with Reza Aslan and saying that, yeah, he means all Muslims. And it's like, you just said to his face, that you know that's not what he says. And I think it goes to that Affleck thing that he's trying to defend Muslim people that he feels are being abused and there's a lofty goal there somewhere. But if you use the tactics of dishonesty and slander and smearing and all that to get there, it's not good. It's not good. So I don't know.
It's awful. But I really like him. That's why it fucks me up.
I feel completely the same way. And actually, when I left, I just let the thing be. And I was like, all right, that's it. I left. We left on good terms. We went out to breakfast. We were good to go. And then he just kept on Twitter, kept lying about it, misrepresenting ideas. And tons of his own fans were turning on him. So finally, after months, I was like, I can't take this anymore. I've got to do something. And I didn't know what to do, because you know what it's like. It's like, here's a friend, here's a coworker, a contemporary. Like, how do I do this in a respectful way? And finally, one night, I laid out like 8 or 10 tweets in a row. I thought them all through first. And I was like, Cenk, here's what I think is going on. Because I needed it to be public. Because if I had just sent him an email, he could either not respond or respond. But what does that do at the end of the day if me and him get to our mea culpa, but it's not public, right? So in a very respectful, not attacking way, I laid out some stuff. He completely ignored it. A couple of weeks went by. Finally, I did something again. Finally, he responded, but then just kept doing the same shit. So I don't know what the answer is. But this is what Glenn's done. This is what Reza's done. I don't get it. Look, these are tactics. These are tactics they're using to win. Majid Nawaz, who I had on my show, who co-wrote Sam's last book, it was a discussion about Islam, called The Future of Tolerance, Islam and the Future of Tolerance. So I'm pretty sure these are people on the side of tolerance, right? Majid, who, by the way, has been treated worse than anybody, like one of these guys that works at The Intercept for Glenn, called Majid a porch monkey while he was sitting next to Sam. You know what I mean? Like, because, you don't believe what we think you're supposed to believe as a Muslim person, and you're with an atheist, you're his porch monkey. I mean, think if that came from the right, how we would rightly react to that, or how these guys on the left would react to that. So anyway, so sadly, and that's what leaves me with such like conflict here, is that I don't think it's going to stop, and I think they've learned, what's that Hitler quote? Like, the bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. I think they're partly operating on that the opportunity cost for Sam, for you, for me, for anyone that cares about any of this, to clean up the mess is way too much for just, Sam's a racist. That's the one. That's easy. But now Sam has to clean it up, and it's a 2-hour frustrated conversation that he had. And yeah, as you said, if you listen to it, fucking brilliant.
Brilliant. It's a 2-hour conversation that is trying to balance out X amount of months of disinformation. But I think that ultimately, in the long run, his ideas are more accurate. They're more like what he's saying is well thought through, and his opinions are better considered. I think when you
but
when
can
you
that
say,
win? Can that?
What is
but
with
can
who,
that
though?
win?
With who? One with you, one with me.
Sure, and it
right?
won. It won to the point that as I said before, I think there's a tipping point coming, because I do think our side is getting stronger. I really do. But the amount of effort and energy he has had to put into this. And when you see, I think there's a chilling effect when people see I'm not talking about us, when the average person sees what has happened to this guy. Again, you've sat with him for probably 20 hours, never thought he was a racist before. When the average person sees what they've done to him, it causes the average person not to want to speak about something. I get emails, I'm sure you get them. I got an email a couple days ago from someone in Sweden saying, I am terrified to talk about any of this stuff. I'm terrified to talk about what's happening in my country right now, And I'm getting emails from all over, literally all over, from Saudi Arabia and all over the place, people saying you're talking about stuff that people are afraid to talk about. I'm not doing it for any other reason other than I feel like I have to. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm on this road because it just appeared before me. This wasn't where I really wanted to go.
Yeah.
My stand-up was a lot about Transformers and G.I. Joe and stupid shit,
Right. I
don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I think that when guys like Cenk do say things that are easily discredited, when you say, like, look, you said this one thing 2 days ago when you were talking to Sam, now you're saying something completely different when he's not here, that is so bad for people's perception of your ideas. It's so bad for your own credibility. It's so bad when you express opinions about other things. Like, you can say something, as a comic, you can say things and you can joke around them, and I can know that you're joking,
right?
So okay, he doesn't really believe that, and you're fucking around. But this isn't fucking around. So you're being held to your ideas, right? You're held accountable for your ideas, and when your ideas are massively inconsistent and contrary days later, and when you're expressing an idea that you have to know is incorrect.
Right. So that's the part that I don't understand, because look, I have fucked up. We've all done fucked up things in our life. We've all lied. We've all whatever.
Maybe you, bro.
Yeah, not you. I know.
Maybe you,
but you know
bro.
what I mean. We've
Speak for yourself.
We've all made mistakes.
Of course.
Look, Brian Williams made some stupid part ego mistake, part whatever you want to call it, about
They
being
found
on the.
they found like 15 different
Right, and then
ones
they
that he lied about.
but everything being equal, they weren't like cataclysmic lies in the scheme of whatever, you know what I mean? In the scheme of things, they were about his little adventures that he exaggerated, partly because of the media, because the media wants you to be a star too.
Right.
So he has to go on the Tonight Show and talk about being on a helicopter. When actually, would Walter Cronkite have done that? Probably not. I don't know.
Well, you know, I've got a friend, Steve Renazizi, and I think you know his story, the 9/11 story. And I think they're really similar to the Brian Williams thing, in that like both original stories were actually pretty impressive, and these guys doctored them up and turned them into this epic thing that ultimately cost them a shitload of credibility, if not all their credibility. With Brian Williams, he was actually in a fucking helicopter in Iraq. The helicopter in front of him was shot at. So, like, that's scary as fuck. You're a reporter. You're getting shot at.
Yeah.
You're hearing gunshots go off. The people in front of you are hit. That's a good story. Your helicopter had to get hit, though, because ultimately these people are full of shit.
Yeah.
And they have to exaggerate and jazz it up. They don't. And because of that, you can't trust what they're saying.
Right. So then it has that effect where you go, this guy did this. Well, now
exactly.
But think about it. My point was actually the reverse of that, because what I was going to say is that his lies were little additional details. You know, like I'm a little cooler details. Right. What these guys have done have been to blatantly distort someone's views. So
but they're
when
talking
you do
about
that,
an opponent. That's the difference.
Right.
Because it's a competition between Cenk and Sam.
Right. So what do you do with that? So
I can't. Well, I like Cenk, but I'm not turning to him for advice or ideas now.
Yeah.
I can't.
I mean, that's
when
how I
listen to his opinions about things, I unfortunately have to take into consideration that he's been massively inconsistent about this one thing.
So when someone is caught or exposed or whatever you want to call it to have so severely misrepresented someone else's views, how are you able to separate that from the rest? So let's say you like 80% of his views, or anybody. We don't have to make it about him. How do you separate that? Because at this point, I don't know how I do it at all. And I know Sam has said that about Glenn, even when it comes to the NSA stuff. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't know what to make of that now, because I know what this person is capable of. I think that's a really interesting point.
It's a very interesting point. It's a very important point, because I have people on this podcast all the time that I don't agree with, and I want to hear their thoughts. I want to know why. And like, I had this conversation with Mark Maron the other night at the Comedy Store, and he was like, why'd you have that guy on? You know, that guy's a this and he's a that. I'm like, because I want to find out what makes him tick. I want to find out what goes on in his head. But there's a difference between someone I don't agree with and someone who I know is distorting the views of another person. Like changing someone's words, changing someone's intent, and doing it for their own benefit, doing it so that they can win this ideological conversation, this argument. That becomes a real issue. And it also becomes a real issue. Like, what if I'm having a conversation with you, and then 2 weeks later you distort what I say?
Exactly.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to defend my ideas because you've mislabeled them or misconstrued them.
You know, it's funny. It's also what is so cool about being in the digital space. Because, as I said, people are clipping things. You can clip on Twitter. Here's what you did. Here's what you did, and they can expose them. So first off, the people at the bottom of this that are just consuming it are now able to get their voices heard to fight the bullshit.
Right.
And I think that there's been a real wave with that, which is incredibly inspiring to me.
It's so different than ever before.
Yeah. And look, so if someone came on here, if I come on here and I said something that was profoundly dishonest or was smearing of someone else, I would never hear the end of it.
Right.
And hopefully people would tag you on Twitter and you'd retweet the shit out of it until everybody had seen, you see what fucking Rubin did and whatever. I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen at the end of this. But
it doesn't benefit you. Yeah. You know it doesn't benefit you.
Because you can be exposed. That's what I don't understand about these guys. How can you do this? How can you retweet memes implying that Sam wants to nuke the entire Middle East? When first off, you know, his whole thing on nuking the first strike thing, it's at the end of Faith. It's about a page and a half. Mm-hmm. That's how much time he spent on this topic. And they've made it sound like this is his fucking go-to.
His position.
Yeah.
And he's talking about a horrific scenario where some ISIS-type civilization has control of nuclear weapons and there's a real threat that they're going to use them on other people.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking
An
about.
apocalyptic regime. That's what he's talking
You
about.
have to consider that if that's a possibility. If it's a possibility that there could be a regime like that somewhere in the world, you have to say, well, what would we do? What are the options? What could you do in that scenario? To not debate that is to like dig your head in the sand.
Yes, and that's the bigger problem. Look,
Yeah.
what do you think Barack Obama thinks on this? We have nukes right now, right? We know we have nukes. We're the only country that's used nukes. Do you think that Barack Obama would only wait until we were nuked to use nukes? Probably not, right?
I don't know. I mean, I couldn't imagine.
I don't know, but there's at least a
with
discussion there.
Yeah, there's a discussion there, and I think that's the deal. It's like a discussion. I think when you discredit people with dishonest statements, when you say things that you know are not true, it becomes a huge issue. Not like what you're talking about when you said, well, I'm pretty sure no one's going to find contradictory statements by me. Well, it's because there's no benefit in it.
Yeah.
Like you like Cenk is not going to really gain points by distorting Sam's perspectives on things. He is only going to gain points with people who don't actually know Sam's perspective. He's going to lose massively when people do listen to what Sam says.
Yeah.
Because then you all of a sudden, whatever goodwill and whatever love and appreciation people have for your ideas, that's going to go out the window when they find out that your ideas have been distorted, that your points of view, rather, of other people's ideas have been distorted.
Yeah.
I've had that happen to me on this show. I had this show with a guy that I actually like, even though he did this. This guy, Jamie Kilstein. And we did this.
I know him ancillary.
We
sort of.
did. He's a social justice warrior.
Yeah,
The whole deal. I don't think he's a bad guy. I really don't. I like him as a human being. Every time I talk to him, I enjoy talking to him. But we did a podcast to get together, and we disagreed on a bunch of things. Then he went on his podcast and completely distorted everything that I said and changed the entire conversation to him being a victim, which is
101 for these
101.
guys.
And then this guy online put together the actual conversation and Jamie's perception of the conversation, and it was I forget the Kilstein delusion. It was the name of the video, and
Yeah.
because of that, he received so much fucking hate, and I think that made him aware of that. And he said it was like the low moment of his life, and he completely stopped doing that, and he doesn't do any of that shit anymore. And he's rebounded, and now he's happier than he's ever been before. But I think that type of behavior is not just standard; it's accepted. It's almost expected.
Yeah.
It's like what they do. And that's, if you're part of that victim culture, the perpetual victim culture, that's how you do it. You make it seem like people were yelling at you, and there's people, and they were so upset with me, and all I was doing was trying to say that women shouldn't be raped. That's not what happened. It's not what happened.
That must have been incredibly validating for you, right? Like because it's personal too, and that's why you can see my body language probably when I talk about Cenk.
Yeah.
I get no pleasure out of this. This is not how I didn't go to work for this guy and agree with so much of, get money out of politics, his like core stuff. I didn't go there for my feelings ultimately to be this.
Right.
But that's where we're at. So in a case like you're talking about with Jamie, it's extremely validating that you create a space based on a certain amount of principles. Someone goes against them. Your audience then calls them out. And then there's like a teachable moment to him. It's pretty great.
I think in that way it's great. I didn't take any pleasure in the fact that he got fucked up emotionally because of it.
No, not that. But
I mean, the hate that you get online, especially if you're like a super sensitive person that's really trolling for love,
Right,
and you got all your
comics.
fucking lines in the water and you're trolling for love. That's what you're doing. And in saying that, and even becoming this victim, you're trolling for love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get people to fuck Joe Rogan, fuck that transphobic, homophobic, racist, sexist, misogynistic asshole. Like, throw them all out there. Throw them all out there. I mean, but that's what's going on when someone's doing. And you got to realize that when you distort people's perceptions or distort people's positions for your own personal benefit, you do yourself a horrible disservice, because you now have ruined any validity, anything that you have said in the past that may resonate with people. You've ruined that, because now you've poisoned that well.
Yeah, so it can be so laid out clearly like this. Let's say just two of the 5 things that Sam, those controversial things. So the profiling thing, right? Are we belaboring this point already?
No, I don't
because I think it's so. I think there's so much to it. Yeah. Okay. but let's say Sam would argue that because these are debatable ideas, we should debate them. So imagine if subsequently, so they do the 3-hour sit down, he and Cenk, and after that, instead of saying he wants to profile Muslim people and blah, 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 and all that bravado and bullshit and whatever, imagine if he had said, Sam and I really disagree on this. I fear that Sam's use of anti-profiling or profiling, whatever you want to call it, I fear that ultimately it will lead, if, for good, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think that he's trying to do something good, but ultimately it's going to lead to Muslim people feeling persecuted, feeling like the other.
Right.
But if he had laid that out like that and had an intellectually honest, say, we believe different things here and that's okay, you have a pretty great place to be.
Yes.
You have a pretty fucking great place to be. People who pretty much agree on most things, and that we can move forward and go, we disagree, but when you do what he did, you've ransacked the playing field.
Yeah.
And now you just have burned bullshit, and that's what it's become. So that's why when you mentioned Kyle's podcast, that's why Sam, that's as frustrated as I've ever heard him. But as you said, it was still pretty eloquent and pretty elegant. But he's pissed. He's pissed, and I think rightly so. And that's why I've been so defensive over the guy, because I know it's like, let's have this. If we can't do this now, it's only going to get worse.
I have as well. I mean, I've been very defensive of him as well. And unfortunately, I have a good friend, Abby Martin, who I love dearly as well. But she and Sam have gone back and forth about this, and I think she in some ways distorts his perceptions.
I mean, I've seen her distort. I don't know her that well, so I don't want to speak
I love her.
For her.
She's
but
awesome.
I've seen her distort a lot of facts on air too about different things.
She gets very passionate, and I think sometimes she misses the mark on certain things, but she's a very good person, and I think she has all the right intentions.
But the intentions, that's
hell, the road to hell.
It's paved with those fucking things. You see what I'm saying, man?
Yes.
It is.
It's like with a guy like Cenk, though, I think he's his own worst enemy in that regard, because once you start doing that, then you have to sort of double down just to try to figure out a more eloquent way of reestablishing your position. And when you do that, like, people don't take you seriously anymore.
Right, that's the problem.
That's a real problem. You become your own enemy.
Yeah, you throw out that bomb of bullshit, and now you're not going to be... There was a point. There is any time. Look, if you said something that was completely untrue, or you smeared somebody, right? And then 2 weeks later, you thought it through, even if you knew you were lying when you did it. But 2 weeks later, you're like, wow, I really shouldn't have done that. Like, I intended to do something good there.
Yeah.
You could backtrack it. With the value that you have in your name and your fans, they would follow you back. Yeah, a couple of people would be like, fuck him. But people would go, and if you calmly explained what happened, you could. The problem with these guys is they've gone, and they kept going and kept going and kept going, that they're so off the range now. Yeah. In my view, there's nothing they could do to ever fix this situation.
It's like a guy saying, irreparable. I know where I'm going, but you really don't. And then you just keep saying, I know where you're going. You're lost further and further in the woods. Like, dude, you're so far from the fucking road now. You're going to have to shoot yourself and come back as a baby and live your life again. Because this is a disaster. What you've created.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to fix that, but I know what it is when I see it.
Yeah. Well, I think this is fixing it. I think this is fixing it. That's actually, when I woke up this morning, and even when I went to bed last night, I was like in a great place, because I was like, I knew I wanted to have this conversation, and I've had it in little bites on my show, but I don't like, not that this has really been about me, because this is about some big stuff, but we're having a little more of a lofty thing here than I would.
It is about you in a way, because you're a part of this big stuff, and also when you're doing your show, like the Rubin Report, what you're doing is you're expressing yourself, and you become a credible portal to these ideas and information. So it is about you in a way, because it's about all of us, and it's about your credibility as that portal.
Yeah.
And you have to defend that. That's fucking... Look, I'm wrong about shit all the time, but if I'm wrong about shit, dude, I'm the first person to tell you I'm wrong about it, because I'm horrified unless it's like some simple stupid mistake. You know? But if I make a mistake, I want to be the first guy to talk about it. I don't want anybody believing anything that's not true to help my ego.
So you've had Cara Santa Maria on, right?
Yes.
So she's a good friend of mine, worked with me at TYT.
I love her.
And I am not, I love her too. She's fantastic. she is a science communicator.
Yes.
That's the way she describes herself. I think she had something to do with this brain surgery live thing last night. That was on Nat Geo.
Yes.
Right? So she's doing really good stuff, and I really respect her and like her. I've said to my audience many times, I know a lot about politics, current events, all this stuff. I'm not a science guy. Like, I can understand basic stuff, but I'm not a scientist. So I have to trust people that know about science to tell me things. So many times I've brought her on just to clean up messes that I've made.
Sure.
So I never go with the presumption to my audience that I know everything about everything. I'm going to bring on some people. And look, so when I've done things on GMOs with Kara, she firmly believes in GMOs, and that's a whole other thing, right? But I know a lot of people don't like her stance on GMOs. But I say, here's my science person. Here's what she said about this. And I'm actually trying to find someone that's a little more against GMOs now to come on and refute some of that stuff. We don't have, as the interviewer, as the guy on this side of it, we don't have to know everything, which is what you said before. That does give us a little bit of a leash, right? Because we're sitting across from someone and we're just bouncing ideas.
We're also talking about so many different subjects. It's impossible to be an expert in all of them.
Yeah. I guess this actually goes to your point about the format of real time in all these shows.
Yes.
That look at where we bounced here already. You know what I mean?
There's only a couple areas where I feel real comfortable in saying I'm an expert. I'm an expert in stand-up comedy, and I'm an expert in martial arts.
Yeah.
And even in martial arts, there's certain aspects of martial arts where I have to defer to other experts.
Yeah.
There's too many styles. There's too many different. There's some different weird Filipinos. There's silat. There's different stick fighting styles, and you can't know everything.
You can't. Well, you can't not only can't know everything, but if you want to see how the thing that you consider yourself an expert in, how it all sort of leads to one road. Look, what you did with Mencia, because you had a set of principles, right? You had a set of principles in something that you love, stand-up, right? I mean, is there anything you love more than stand-up besides wife and kids? Is that it?
Yeah, friends, wife, kids, health,
stand-up. All right, but in terms of the other things, like stand-up's right
all
there.
All those things, yeah.
And what you did with Mencia, which I'm sure you've talked about a bajillion times already. Do you remember we met once, actually?
Yeah, where did we meet?
We met at the Young Turks. You were going on to
that's right.
We were going on to do Anna's show, and we were talking for a few minutes. And obviously I knew who you were, but I didn't I'm a comic too. I just didn't. So we just shot the shit for a few minutes, and we talked about that a little bit. But my point is that because you use the set of principles that are guiding you right now to do this show are the same principles that you use to defend your art in that moment, So all of these things, they all come together one way or another.
In some ways. The real problem with that Mencia thing was that the art form was being compromised, not just by him stealing from other people, but him creating an environment where people were terrified to express themselves. Look at
that social justice warrior, right? That's the same thing that they've done.
Yeah.
By Cenk yelling racist, now what have you done?
Well, sort of, you couldn't express yourself because he would steal those ideas and call them his own.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why there was literally a signal that people would do where, you'd be on stage for 5 minutes, you had a 15-minute set, and all of a sudden 5 minutes in, the light would be on. Why is the light on? I have 10 more minutes to go. It's because Mencia's in the room, and they would let people know. They would flash the light.
Incredible.
Well, it was a problem. It was a real problem. It was also the people that were running the comedy store were fucking retarded, as well as the people that were running these agencies were fucking retarded. The conversation that I had with my agents when they were telling me that I had to either apologize to Mencia or that they were going to drop me. I go, do you guys understand what you're doing? Because you're making a decision right now. You're calling it business. You're making a decision that's going to affect the rest of your life. You're supporting a criminal, and all you sell is art. All you sell is art. That's all you guys do. You don't produce widgets. You guys aren't building cars. You guys are you're sellers of other people's art. That's what an agent is. And what you have here is a guy who's stealing art and selling it. You have a vampire, and you're taking this vampire. He will suck the blood off the creative geniuses that you have on your roster. But meanwhile, the opposite happened. Louis C.K. left them immediately. Dave Attell left them. Nick Swartzen left them. People that found out about him went, fuck this. Yeah. Then he left them. So the whole thing was a disaster for Gersh, for the agency at the time. And, they've really never recovered. I mean, it's always...
I was with them for a little bit. I left for other reasons.
It was a fucking disaster for them. I mean, they lost a fuckload of money because of that one conversation that we had over the phone, where I would have stayed with them. I'm like, if you want to defend this douchebag, I don't give a fuck. This has been my agent for years. I like the guy who I'm not going to name him.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. But he was being put in a position by the guy who owned the company that, like, look, this guy is calling me up saying he demands that that Joe apologize to him and he wants it to be a big deal. And like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd rather be homeless.
And basically, for people to really understand that, the reason was because at the time he was a bigger star than you, right?
Well, he was
so ultimately
on-
that's where the power play was.
Yeah, he was on, but I was big enough star that I couldn't be hurt by it.
Yeah.
I was rich.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you going to do? I was on Fear Factor at the time. I had all this money, and I'm like, you can't hurt me. And he tried. He tried to get me. He got me banned from the Comedy Store. He tried to get my agency. And this is a person, you know, in me where I'm already untouchable in that sense. Like you really can't dig in. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to try though. So if I was a young comic coming up, he would have had some real damage.
Yeah.
He could have done some real damage to me.
Well, I'm sure there's probably untold amount of young comics that he lifted from that you have no idea.
Well, a lot of them contacted me while that was going on, and some of them didn't want to be named, and some of them didn't mind if I named them. But I think, honestly, that most likely he stole almost everything he did. And that he stole it from different sources and changed it around. But you've got that with a lot of comics. You got that with a lot of like really shitty comedians make it. And one of the ways they make it is they take other people's ideas and they move them around just enough.
Sure. And look, even good comics. Look, Robin Williams, who's has more talent or had more talent in his finger than I probably have in my whole body,
and that
was
talent,
well known
yes.
to steal. I know a comic personally. You probably know him too, but I won't name him for the purpose of this. But who Robin stole a bit from, and then he never told him, but then just sent him a check. I think he sent him a $15,000 check.
He did that to a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Well, Robin was much
I mean,
better as a performer than he was as a creative guy.
Yeah.
As someone who came up with the ideas.
Have you ever heard the phrase parallel evolution? Has that phrase?
Parallel thinking. I've heard that.
I had a comic when I was working in New York that I worked with almost every night, and he started lifting from people, and we all kind of knew it. And he did exactly what you said. It was like he would take the premise, but then just tweak it enough that every time I'd be watching, I'd go, can't, but we all knew.
Right.
And one night I finally confronted him. He's still doing stand-up, by the way, and we've since become friends, and he's sort of apologized and whatever. And he said to me one night, he goes, Dave, don't you know about parallel evolution? The premise being that these jokes just evolve over, if you're talking about sort of current event type things, we're all going to, a certain amount of it's just going to evolve at the same time. I was about to say his name, but I said, not only are you lifting jokes, you also made up a theory. Like, that's pretty, if you could apply that sort of creative thinking to your jokes, maybe we wouldn't be in this problem.
And that is part of the problem, is that a lot of these people, they have a self-defeating tendency. And that self-defeating tendency is that they're not willing to put in the work because they're afraid of failure. So instead, they see success and they just duplicate it. And they literally duplicate it in the premise. They duplicate the premises, they duplicate the pathway to getting to the end of the joke.
But the one thing they can't duplicate is you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's at the end of the day, that's all we have. Forget whether it's stand-up or whether it's radio or on air, like what you have. The thing that at the end of the day they come to you is something that you can't really quantify, right? Like people understand a certain series of things about you that they like. So if the average person, well, why do you like Rogan? They could lay out a couple things, but there's that other thing that just is there.
They can't duplicate you, but in the case of a guy like Robin Williams, he can duplicate all the things that you do that people like.
Well,
and that becomes a problem, because if he goes on before you, and that was one of the Mencia things that he would do, he would steal someone's bit and then bring them on. Like, because at Comedy Store, you tag team, which means you would go on and you would say, thank you very much, good night. All right, this next comic is, and you'd bring up your friend.
Right, so no MC kind of thing.
Yeah, no MC at the Comedy Store. And he would bring on guys right after he did their closing bit. And he would do it to fuck with them. And he would do it because he had some power, and because the Mexican community is desperately looking for star comedians. I mean, they have a few of them. I mean, there's like George Lopez was always a big one, and Gabriel Iglesias is a big one. He sells out everywhere, but he's a really nice guy. And the difference being that Mencia is not really Mexican. That was, he was completely concocted.
Yeah.
And that's what really did him in more than anything.
Well, it's
when
like,
people
what's his
found
name?
out it was a fake name.
What was his real name? His real name's
Ned Holness.
Something. And what about, what's the other one? One of the redneck guys. What's his name? Electric Bob or Refrigerator Sal. What the hell is his name?
Larry the Cable Guy?
Yeah, and what's his real name? And he's
Dan Whitney.
And it's like,
yeah, but Dan Whitney's not stealing jokes.
Yeah,
I don't mind someone like Dice Clay's real name isn't Dice Clay.
Yeah,
it's Andrew Silverstein.
I was at a party a couple of weeks ago, and Dice was there. And I was never a huge fan of his, but I do remember around whatever that was, maybe 89, 90, maybe a little later when he sold out the Garden and when he was in that, that year of just
thunder,
insanity. I remember watching that and thinking like, this is incredible. Like it was one of the things that really sparked me with stand-up because even though I didn't love the material and I understood how stupid the jokes were sort of, but I was like, the power of this is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And so I went up to him at this party and I tapped him on the shoulder and I just said, hey, I'm Dave, a comic, blah, blah. He was like, yeah, good. And then walked away. Like, I was like, wow. Because I've had such good, I'm sure you've had this too, when you've met comics over the years that you really admire.
Yeah.
Pretty much every single one that I've ever admired. When I lived on the Upper West in New York, I lived about 2 blocks away from Seinfeld. So I'd bump into him a lot. And he was a little hot and cold, but like basically like there was the comic bond. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I was just, Dice was just like, he was so over it. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
He's become his persona.
Yeah.
I like Dice.
Well, he's dressed
and
the
I'm
way you
friends
think
with him.
Yeah.
But he wasn't always that guy. Like that dressing, that whole thing, that was a character in Andrew Silverstein's act.
Yeah.
Like the Dice Man was a guy he would do that was basically Jerry Lewis and the Nutty Professor. Like, if you've never seen The Nutty Professor, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's great about it, it's Jerry Lewis is like this nerdy guy who takes a potion. It was a potion, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he becomes this super cool daddy-o guy. This is like 19 fucking whatever it was.
50 something.
Yeah, probably. And it's a hilarious movie because, ultimately this guy, becomes this guy that the ladies love, and then the potion starts wearing off and he goes back to being his nerdy self again. And Dice is that guy. I mean, that's who he is on stage. Well, it was only a part of his act, and then it became the best part of his act, and then it became his act, and then it became him outside. It's like, so now you see him walking around the street. He's got the weightlifting gloves on. He's got a fucking Gold's Gym jacket that's fucking. It's got all the glitter on it and shit. Yeah. It's bedazzled. I mean, he's I'm happy he exists though. I enjoy him.
Oh, for sure. And think about like the fact that if you watch that Madison Square Garden special, which it's all on YouTube, you can watch it. People are announcing the jokes before he even finishes the premise. Like that was the power. That's where it showed to me the power of stand-up. Like I remember what got me into stand-up was I was 4 years old, 1980 or 6 maybe, 1983. I saw Bill Cosby himself on HBO. And I was on the floor, even though I probably didn't even really understand what he was talking about. I thought this was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
You're grown up, by the way, when your childhood hero becomes a serial rapist.
Maybe the most successful serial rapist ever.
Of all time, yeah. But that sparked it in for me. That sparked laughter and wanting to make people laugh and loving comedy for me. But the Dice thing was like, holy shit, this is a real... Now I understand the show, too.
Well, his stand-up was different in that not only did you know the punchline, but the whole audience would sing it like a song.
Yeah.
So they wanted to hear the same jokes again, which is very different from other stand-up. With stand-up, most of the time you want to hear the new bits.
Yeah. Well,
that's what people want to hear, shit they haven't heard before.
Sure. And I know that even talking about Cosby, it's like hard to do at this point because everyone associates such terrible stuff. But I did see him live a couple times. And one of the most amazing things that I ever saw a comic do ever was that, everyone knew that whole himself special. Every comic loved it pretty much. So many, from Chris Rock to Seinfeld to a zillion people, credit that with like being one of their seminal things and the records and all that. And I saw Cosby maybe 10 years ago in Jersey, and he was doing all new stuff. And, it was kind of, by his last 10 years haven't been that kind to him. And even just the way he looks, and he's had some health things, like none of it was that great. But then at the end, he goes, I'm going to do one old bit for you. And he said, I know you all know it, but I'm going to do one old bit for you. And he did the dentist routine, and everyone knew it. But he was such a master that it was like watching him. It was like watching someone with clay, because he could take the laughs before they were coming and then just change it enough to keep them going more. And they weren't yelling out the punchlines because it wasn't as, like didactic or just set as Dice. But like it was amazing to watch, to do comedy and invent your old bit that you've now reinvented 1,000 times, and they know it all, and it was like as good as ever. It was amazing to watch.
Well, his old stuff, I mean, in the time, and that is a thing that you need to take into consideration when you watch stand-up, is that stand-up is sort of a time machine. It's a time capsule. And like that's why you can go back and listen to Lenny Bruce, who is arguably the most important stand-up comic ever.
Yeah.
And he's not very funny.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's not very good today. And this is coming from someone who has Lenny Bruce posters framed in his house, and I have Lenny Bruce live at the Fillmore in my my office. I mean, he's, in my opinion, the most important guy ever.
Well, he changed the art.
Definitely.
He just fucking tore the thing down. We are not going to do jokes like that. We're going to talk about real shit. And he opened it for everybody.
Yeah.
Period.
And I think that's often the case with a lot of the greats. Like a lot of the old Carlin stuff is in that vein. Like I understand its position in the history, but if you watch it or listen to it today, it's really not that good.
You know,
and
it's
I think
interesting.
that's the case with Cosby as well.
So Cosby and especially now Cosby has this other thing attached to him that it just becomes
Impossible to remove.
Yeah. It's so lined up together. Carlin. So I had Kelly Carlin on this week, who's George's daughter, who's a good friend of mine. And we talked about that, and we related it all to everything else we've been talking about here, the social justice stuff and language and words and, you know, being afraid to hear certain ideas and all that. So it was a really, really interesting conversation. And I watched a bunch of George's stuff just in preparation. I've seen it all 1,000 times. But I thought actually a lot of it still does stand. Some of it, yeah, the 7 dirty words sort of seem ridiculous now in a certain way.
Still pretty good, though.
But it's still pretty good. Like, and even his last HBO special is fucking perfection. I've asked her this before. He knew his health was failing at the time. I don't think he knew he was going to die only a few months later. But in a lot of ways, if you watch it knowing that he perhaps thought it was his last special, it brings it to a whole other level. Because he ends it really just wrapping up a 40-year. Here's what I think about everything. It's pure brilliance.
Well, he did a new special every year. So when you have that much material,
you're
going to have some hits and some misses, but he certainly had way more hits than he had misses.
Sure. He had like a 5-year, I think, sort of lull, I guess, maybe in the mid-90s or something, where I thought it became just too much about cursing and whatever. But beyond that, that guy...
Well, I think that represented a lull in his life, though. You know, I mean, he had some issues in his own life, personal life. But what I was referring to is his old stuff. If you go back to when he looked like a weatherman.
Oh, you're talking about before he became the
George Carlin.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, if you go back and put that time capsule and try to like watch that today, it's not really that funny. You know who is really interesting? The old stuff is Woody Allen. Woody Allen's old stuff. First of all, he's a total pervert in his old stuff.
Well, it all sort of leaked.
Wow, this is so weird.
Yeah. Well, look, it all leaked into his movies, like all his strange sexual stuff and young girls, and how old was Mariel Hemingway in Manhattan? She was first off, she played underage, and I don't know how old she was.
Yeah, I think she was like 17 or something. How old was she?
She was. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But yeah, but comedy is in a weird way. Like, here's a good example. Eddie Murphy Raw at the time was like this monster stand-up thing that everybody had to see. Oh my God, I saw it, I was crying. Try watching that today. First of all, you want to talk about homophobic. Not just homophobic, but violently, aggressively homophobic.
Yeah.
Which is really weird when you consider all the allegations that have surfaced since with him and transgender people and transsexuals and picking up hookers that were men. Like, it's very, very strange.
Isn't it funny that we try to get... Look, who was it? Oscar Wilde said, if you want to tell people the truth, you have to be funny. I think it was Oscar Wilde. Maybe it was Lily Tomlin. Am I totally... it's somebody. I can't remember. I think it's one of them. I don't know how I have those
It was the Dice Man. I said it. Oh!
But, it's funny that we try, as a society, like, so many of the people that, of course, that we admire, but that everyone admires, are comedians, because we're supposed to tell the truth. We are supposed to tell the truth. And then at the same time, comedians are often either the sad clown or severely emotionally crippled or wanting that approval thing before, and all the lines that you were talking about. And it's a really bizarre place. So then when you suddenly get all that approval, and then it's like, can you still also grow as a human while you're getting approval from something that came out of some dysfunction?
Yeah.
And I know this is the endless comedian discussion.
Yeah. You have to adjust why you do it. You have to do it for other people instead of doing it for yourself. And you have to do it for the art, for the work.
Yeah.
And the work is profoundly enjoyable for people that love stand-up. It's like if you're a painter and you only paint for yourself, well, at a certain point in time, you're running out of shit to paint.
Yeah.
When you're painting, I guess, expressing yourself for the desires of other people, I think then it becomes different.
Yeah, I saw George Carlin once, just a little bit before he died, also on The View, and he was talking about the art of stand-up.
Good Lord. Poor man.
Poor guy.
That probably took years off his life. We maybe still have George today if he didn't make that
Come to think of it, I think he died later that day. But he said something that I thought was really great. He said, when I became a good comic was when I got over the need.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a good lesson for humans in general, just for people, like getting over whatever the need is of yourself. And we all struggle with this. Of course, I struggle with it as a person and as a comic and a host or whatever it is.
Right.
Like we all have that shit and wanting all that approval. But when you can get over that and really do things for the right, clean reasons and at the same time live in a way that honors all those things that you stand up for, I think that's like the secret. Like that's the sauce. Like that's what we should all be trying to do. And it transcends, profession. It transcends comedy and it transcends everything pretty much.
Yeah, I think you're onto it, and I think also that process of like the need that's the fuel that gets you off the earth and away from the effects of gravity. And then the momentum of that sort of carries you on, but you don't necessarily have to keep that fucking jet engine fire under your asshole all the time.
Yeah.
But
doesn't that explain sort of like why angst and being fucked up or whatever it is, when they say comics are all fucked up or whatever, you need a certain amount of that.
Oh, you do to get going.
You need it. And look, I did stand up. Think about this. I did stand up. We've only known each other for whatever it is, 2 hours now. I did stand up for about 10 years in the closet. Now, I was mostly doing political stuff and social stuff. I wasn't like outwardly lying all the time and being like, I fucked this chick and that, it wasn't like that. But like I constantly was avoiding the truth on stage, or if I was getting heckled, there were easy ways that it would imply that I was straight, and I'm 100% sure there were times that I made it seem like I was straight or something like that.
Right.
But that angst and that fuel really made me successful really quick. Like I was passed at the Comedy Cellar like a year into doing stand-up, and then a couple of years later, like it basically all crumbled on me because I realized that my person life was way behind where my art was. And then I ended up doing gay shows, which was another fucking nightmare because if you're a gay comic, they have like one at every club, right? Like there's sort of one like stereotypical gay comic. And then suddenly I was the gay comic and I don't act that gay, whatever the hell that means. So I wasn't even gay enough for them. Then I ended up on a gay TV channel on Here TV, which was this like premium gay channel. And then I ended up on the gay channel on Sirius XM. I wanted to talk about politics, and instead I was fucking interviewing Real Housewives and all of that shit, and it had nothing to do with anything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So everybody's path is crazy and weird.
Well, your path's always going to be crazy and weird because we're human beings, and I think you're onto it as far as like this fucked up aspect of you that needs love so badly you want to go on stage with a spotlight on you and a microphone that amplifies your voice. Pay attention to me.
Please.
And then once you get to that position, it's up to you to figure out the trick.
Yeah.
Because if you're a magician and you believe that you're really pulling a rabbit out of a fucking hat, you're an idiot. Like you're the guy with the trick.
Good.
And the trick is, your voice is amplified, you're on the stage, you figured out the cadence and the hypnotic rhythm in order to get people to laugh at your stuff. But what are you actually trying to do? If you're still trying to fill holes, well, you fucking missed it, son. Mm-hmm. That's just supposed to get you to the dance. And once you're at the dance, then it's supposed to be about creating the art. Yeah. Then it's supposed to be about trying to figure out what is the best way to make something really funny. What is the best way to make something so I contribute to culture. I contribute to people's entertainment value. They go out, they can say, hey, Dave Rubin is at the Ice House tonight. Let's go on out and have a good time. And they leave there and they go, that was fun. Oh my God, that was great. And that's the goal. The goal is you're changing the way people feel. And you can do that with ideas and you got to work them through. But yeah, what gets you to the dance in the first place is your fucked up past. your angst, your insecurities, your all that shit. It's a matter of the people that cling to those things and that never get rid of them. Then they make it and they don't know what the fuck to do.
So that's the really interesting part to me because I lived on the Upper West, as I said before.
Put this microphone closer to you.
Yeah, sorry.
You'll hear, people hear it more because we can hear each other.
Yeah. When I get deep, I start leaning to my left. So I lived on the Upper West, which is like a bastion of comedians. There's just a zillion comics that live up there. Seinfeld lived up there, and Elaine Boozler lived up there, and Taylor Negron, who I met right before he died. Didn't even know. I met him just a couple weeks before he was going to do my show.
He was a great guy.
Great guy. And just a zillion, and a lot of younger comics, whatever. But I used to see Greg Giraldo all the time. He lived a couple blocks away from me.
Another great guy.
And so I think you'll find this really interesting. I didn't know him personally, but he knew I was a comic. We just sort of nod when we were walking by. And one day I saw him walking his two kids. He had his two young sons hand in hand, and he was walking between them. And I thought, wow, like there's a guy who I respect as a comic, like doing good shit. He's funny. He's real. You could always tell there was like some pain there, but like doing it, he's getting certain chances. Like I think he never got like maybe whatever would have been his big chance, but like he was in the mix and respected anyway. Then the next day after that, I saw him. I went to Equinox, was the gym I went to on the Upper West, and I saw him there. And he was working out, and I was like, "Look, there's a guy. I just saw him with his kids. He's working out. Like seems like it's working for this guy. Like it actually gave me hope. Like, oh, I can become like a functioning person." That weekend, he was dead. I mean,
but with him,
and I don't know enough about him to.
Well, I know him.
Yeah,
and it was a pill thing. It was a drug thing. You know, and that's incredibly unfortunate. I knew him when he had a television show because when Greg had he had a show because Greg started out as a lawyer and he had a show on one of the networks.
I think NBC. Right?
I don't think so because I was on NBC at the time and I don't think we're on the same network.
Oh, okay.
I think it was ABC, but that doesn't matter. What matters is we were on the same lot. We were both on that Sunset Gower lot that I was talking about, and we were next door to each other. So I'd hang out with him. We're just fellow comics, and that's the bond that we shared. Is that he had a lot more responsibility than me because I was on this giant ensemble where I was the fifth or sixth person when the credits roll. It'd be like Phil Hartman or Dave Foley, Mauritania. Yeah. So I had no pressure, but he had the Greg Giraldo show. I don't remember what it was called, but it was his show, and he went from that, and then he was really a big part of Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn. And there's that great moment where he shut down Dennis Leary on Tough Crowd. It was like one of my all-time favorite moments on Tough Crowd because Dennis was getting upset that Greg Giraldo had written jokes. He had funny things to say about certain things. He goes, "Yeah, Dennis, that's what we do. We write jokes." And it was just a classic moment. Dennis is wearing sunglasses. It's inside.
Right, like Greg's like in the prime and Dennis is coming in. Like,
it's just horse shit.
Yeah.
But he was a guy that I think was really respected by a lot of other comedians and was really good at roasts. Yeah. And in today's day, he died a few years back. He probably would be just right now crushing it like Bill Burr is. He'd be right now like be in his stride because I think that what he was doing and what he was really good.
Yeah. But that goes to
demons,
that thing.
Man. Demons.
I mean, think about that. Literally the day before, I'm looking at this guy going, holy shit, like he's doing it.
That pill demon is a different monster. The opiate addict, that's a different monster. The person who does meth or coke or, the people that go hard, that's a totally different monster.
Yeah.
That scares the shit out of me, man.
I mean, I smoked a ton of pot in my day like that.
I smoked a ton of pot yesterday.
Yeah. I got my card a couple weeks ago, actually.
Good for you.
Yeah, I went to the 420 doctor on Melrose. You know the 420
so hard to get a prescription, isn't it?
I thought...
You have to go through a battery of tests.
Oh, my God. It was like a day of, like, probing, and I thought I was being, like, taken by
We're
aliens.
joking, by the way, folks. You have to be a fucking idiot to not get a prescription.
So I could not believe how easy it was. I mean, I went in. I was like, well, I guess... Like, I just wanted weed to smoke weed. I don't have any real physical ailments, but I was like, I'll tell them I would get headaches. Yeah. So my knees hurt after I play basketball, back pain. I mean, the woman looked at me like, shut the fuck up. And then I had never been to one of the stores, one of the dispensaries, went in there I still can't believe, I've only been there a couple of times now, but I can't believe like just the level of, it's a real salesperson, and candy and edibles and oil,
Be careful.
So she wanted oils and so there's oils. What else? A wax. I was like, do you have any weed in weed form? Like, is that it left anymore? Like just some buds. So I got oil. So.
It's available, but yeah, the problem is once you go down to the first floor, you want to go, well, is there a basement down there? Yes, there is a basement. What's that door in the basement? Ooh, that's the sub basement.
Yeah.
Let's look in the sub basement. And then you start going deep, and next thing you know, you're in a spiral staircase on your way to
How
hell.
much pot do you smoke?
I smoke a fair bit. Depending upon whether or not I'm at the Comedy Store or not, I enjoy getting high and going to the Comedy Store.
Mm-hmm.
I like to get high before I do jiu-jitsu. I like to get high before I give the missus a stabbing.
Nice.
I like to get high before I get in the isolation tank.
Isolation tank. I want to talk about that. I need to do that.
I enjoy marijuana.
Yeah.
It's one of my friends.
So I could tell. You lit up. It was
I like it.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
And also I like the fact that I represent the opposite of the stereotype.
Right, you're doing shit.
Yeah, well, I don't buy it. I don't buy that marijuana makes you lazy. I think you're fucking lazy. I think you could be lazy and eat Cheetos. Does that mean Cheetos make you lazy? You could be lazy and watch TV. Does that mean TV makes you lazy? I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I think we're looking for some reasons why people have flaws in their personality. And I don't think you could say it's marijuana. Does marijuana have all good aspects to it? No. Like many things, it has good and bad. The bad thing is the memory. The memory thing is a bad thing. Like, what were we talking about? But that's fleeting, Like long-term memory, my long-term memory is fucking fantastic. It has to be. Because with the UFC, look, I have a bio when I do the UFC, which will tell me like a fighter's record, tell me who they're training with, and tell me. But when the matches are going on, I'm not leafing through papers. If I start talking about a fight that happened 7 years ago in another organization, it's because it's in my head.
Yeah.
And when I talk to people and they're like, what kind of preparation do you do? I'm like, I'm not doing any preparation. The preparation that I am, but I'm not. The preparation that I'm doing, I would do anyway. I want to watch their fights because I know they're coming up. So I'll watch their shit if I need to know about some of their training methods. But those are things that I will do because I'm curious about. I want to broaden my understanding of what their preparation is. That because I want to enjoy the fight more, and I enjoy the fight more if I do that, and then I express that. But all that stuff is off memory.
It's there.
Yeah. So when I'm doing how many notes do you have in front of you that I write? Zero. I don't have any. So if you hear me talking about old matches and stuff like that, all that shit is in my head. So I have to have good memory. And if I really thought that pot was fucking with that, I would stop smoking pot. But it doesn't. But it'll fuck with what were we just talking about?
Yeah, that.
It'll do that.
Well, you think Twitter's doing that too. I'm a firm believer in that all of these things and having this phone constantly, that's fraying. I mean, I'm talking really just splitting and disintegrating people's memory and especially short-term memory. I see on my show all the time now. Comics or anyone will be on just talking about anything. And suddenly they forget what they're saying. I'm not talking about 70-year-old people. I'm talking about 30-year-old people. There used to be a time if you were going to meet a buddy out or you're going to meet a girl for a drink or something, you're waiting on a corner and she's going to be, and she's 5 minutes late.
Right.
You'd have to stand there and just
and wait.
Think about some shit and look at the sky and people watching, whatever. But now you immediately do this.
Immediately.
And not only do you immediately do it, you can immediately scroll and see and approval. Oh, they love me, they hate me, they love me, whatever it is. And all of that, and it goes to what we started with this whole thing about, and 6-second videos, and all of this shit, and this bounce back of why people like this now is because all of this I really think is they've done studies where it's actually rewiring synapses and all of this stuff. It's changing people's brains. And the internet is actually having a physical effect on us. That's not just our necks are hungover and
that neck thing is real, man.
Yeah,
they're worried that people are gonna older people of our generation and before are going to have real issues with their neck because they're always looking down.
Yeah,
and that in looking down like that, you're stretching the ligaments and stretching your neck and putting pressure on your discs.
I feel it. I feel even when I'm holding my iPad. I feel like I've done something to my pinky. Like my pinky has a little, I'm not kidding. Like I've got 2 little indentations here because I'm holding this thing all the time like this, I mean, really, people, you do all kinds of weird, how if you're writing, I'm a lefty. So if I'm writing, I have a little indentation on my index finger because the pen is always laying there. You actually can physically change your body by some of this technological
unquestionably. I used to have from drawing, I used to have a big callus on the inside of my fuck you finger on my
That gave
right
it a little
hand.
extra.
Well, it was not that, but I mean, it's just I drew like hours and hours every day when I was young. And I always had these like big calluses all over there, and they've all gone away now.
Huh.
It's interesting how that happens.
You got to start drawing again.
Yeah, maybe. But the neck thing is a real concern. The eye thing's got me. I mean, obviously, your eyes degenerate as you get older. That's a thing about close vision. But with me, I think it's got to be connected at least somewhat to staring at screens. I know that's bad for you. You're focusing on any short term, like something that's really close to you.
Mm-hmm.
And who the fuck was it that was on the podcast that referred to it as like a cast? I don't remember who it was. Oh, it was
short-term memory.
The woman
Come on, bring it home.
Who sleeps on the ground. Remember the chick who she doesn't sleep on beds, and she's got this interesting Kathy. Is her name Kathy? Whatever. Jamie will find it. But anyway, the way she described it was she was saying that when you're staring, Kathy Bowman.
Yep.
Yeah. Katie Bowman, thank you, Katie Bowman. She said when you're staring at one distance all the time, like the distance between your face and your laptop or your face and your phone, is that your eyes are supposed to look at close things and far things and look at this broad range of distances, and instead you're only looking at something right in front of your face, and it fucks with literally the shape of your eye.
Yeah,
and then it's your body doesn't know what the fuck to do.
I mean, think about it. Our grandparents, or even our parents, when my dad was born, there was no such thing as television. I'm 39 years old.
That's insane.
Right? So our grandparents had no screens. They didn't even have radio, right? Radio had just maybe started, whatever it was. When did radio start? Give me
early
how good are you?
1900s.
Right, okay. So my grandparents were
World
probably...
of Wars? What was that? 1920s?
Yeah. So, I mean, really
30s?
think about that, how we've changed in 100 years. And as you were talking about earlier, about how the internet's going to change us and we're learning so much more faster and all that, that now it's so involved in this digital, I mean, it's the Matrix is becoming real. Like ultimately, we're just the batteries for these things to keep going. You know, like we're just putting information, we're putting whatever our spirit is, whatever you want to call that, is just the battery for this digital thing to exist.
Do you know who Marshall McLuhan is?
I don't think so.
He's a fascinating thinker and author from like the 50s and 60s, I think it was, and he was a part of the counterculture in a lot of ways. A lot of people quote him, but one of the things that he said about this is technology before computers. He said human beings are the sex organs for the machine world, and the idea that we exist to create these machines. And I firmly believe that what we're doing is we are some sort of a technological caterpillar, and we're giving birth to a new life form. I really, really believe that. And I think that Elon Musk and what he said about summoning the demon in the form of artificial intelligence, I don't think that's off at all. I think there's going to come a time, whether it's 100 years or 1,000 years, human life and the biological limitations of our own cellular bodies, it's going to be ridiculous. We're just going to get rid of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be that long. 100 or forget 1,000. Well, 1,000 we're going to be long gone from this earth. But
maybe.
I don't even think
so. People won't be around 1,000 years.
I think we'll have. I think a lot of people are probably going to die here on our dying planet, and rich people mainly are going to be able to escape
with spaceships.
Yeah. We're going to go to...
Where are we going?
We're going to... Well, I guess we've given up on the moon, right? Now, we're going to find something. We are going to find something that has some of the basic building blocks of life, like Earth. Look, Carl Sagan, our sun is not spectacular by any stretch. And we know that there's billions and billions of suns in this galaxy, in this universe, that whole thing. And it endlessly extrapolates. And all we are just a tiny rock that had the right distance from the sun and the right amount of chemicals to make all this shit happen. We're going to find something that's going to be similar to this, but maybe it'll all be 10 degrees hotter, and because of that everything will have evolved slightly differently. Or maybe you could pick, like I love Star Wars, you could pick any of those planets, like it just evolved differently. There'll be a planet that's all, mostly water, and we'll have to eventually learn how to deal with that, unless the guys get here first and kill us. That's possible too.
That is possible, but I think that our own biological limitations, our own organisms are so acutely adapted to this environment, to the environment of planet Earth, that it would be insanely difficult for us to colonize another planet. Insanely insanely problematic when it comes to dealing with whatever life is already there, dealing with the environment, dealing with that. It'd be better to just fix this spot.
I hope we can.
This spot's fucking falling apart. We have a shitty old car, and we're like, let's just abandon it and leave it on the lawn and move to the neighbor's house.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the idea. But the neighbor's house is on fire all the time, and it gets pelted with asteroids. I think we're going to put all of our effort into flying to some other planet, and on the way there, their sun's going to supernova, and then we're going to blow up in the middle of space, and all hope will be lost. That's what I think.
Wow.
And
I've been feeling so
Earth,
inspired by this conversation, and now you've...
people back here on Earth are just going to regroup and go, you know what? Let's stop trying to go to space and just clean the ocean.
Yeah, I really think something about humans, something about, look, right now, like even if we cut, and again, I'm not a scientist, but even if we cut our greenhouse gases here in America and we do all this stuff, India, these developing nations, China, they're going through what we went through 60 years ago. So when we have the UN meet and try to get everybody to come up with, numbers that we're going to allow to put out this much smog and this much all this bullshit, it's like, what right do we have to tell them not to do everything they can to advance just the way we did 50 years ago? So so it's funny, and I live in West Hollywood. There are no plastic bags, right? And they don't even want to give me a paper bag at Trader Joe's anymore. You know,
you have to pay for it.
You have to pay for it, and so I mostly just pay for paper bags at this point. They hate me too because I never bring my own bag. I'm a fucking badass. I pay that 10 cents for that bag.
They hate you for that? You see it in their eyes?
Yeah, you can see it. The judgment,
really?
The horrible judgment.
I need those paper bags.
I use the paper bags. I know. I put my recycling in them.
Yeah, well, that's also how I light the fire when I use my grill. I stuff the paper bag underneath the little charcoal chimney. That's what I use.
Yeah. Well, they'd hate you for that.
Oh, fuck them. Short-sighted bitches.
Yeah. Anyway, I just think the Earth, I don't know. I think 100 years, it'd be hard for me to believe that things could still be going on around here.
Well, 100 years ago, you'd be amazed at what progress has taken place socially. You'd be amazed. I mean, think about that. Think about 1865 was the last time slavery was legal, right? Think of that. Think of how that's not a long time ago.
No, it's not
all.
a long time ago.
You know, that's almost 100 years exactly from when I was born. I was born in 67. So 102 years later, I was born after slavery. That's nothing. 100 years is not that much time.
Yeah.
I think that 1,000 years from now, who the fuck knows what kind of technological capabilities we're going to have as far as our ability to not just not create waste, but to use up all the waste that we have created and use it in a positive way. Just because you burn gasoline, it creates pollution. It doesn't mean that's the only way you can get energy. And just because pollution is in the air, carbon dioxide is hitting record levels, it doesn't mean that can't be maintained and regulated. I think there's got to be a way that people can figure out how to live sustainably. If it's possible to live sustainably in a small community, it's possible to live sustainably globally.
So when you do it for yourself, like when you hunt for your meat, and you were telling me you have chickens before, when you do all that stuff, do you feel that you're doing it for yourself, or you're doing it for your community, or is it 50-50?
Zero, I'm being totally honest.
Yeah.
0 for my community, 0 for the earth. I'm just thinking, what's the best way? This is just my intent going in. I understand that it's better for the earth, but my intent going in is like, I don't want to rely on other people for my food. I don't want to rely on some farmer to not shove antibiotics and hormones into food. I want to be able to eat clean, healthy food. Also, ethically, I don't want to be a part of the factory farming system. I think when I watch these YouTube videos, these PETA videos on how they raise pigs and cows, and it's fucking evil. I'd rather shoot a wild pig. I'd rather eat moose. You know, I think it's better for you too. Protein-wise, the protein content of elk and moose is far higher than the protein content of beef. It's better for you. You can eat smaller portions. You get more out of it. For me, it gives me a better feeling. I know where everything came from. When I eat a steak that I cut from an elk myself, that is such a different feeling than when you go to the supermarket and you get something of ambiguous origins in a plastic-wrapped container, and you just take it home, you cut open the plastic, and you slap it on the grill, and I'm out here grilling like a man.
So you know at Trader Joe's that when you get just chopped meat from Trader Joe's, it comes from 4 different countries. They have 4 countries of origin on it.
For beef?
For beef. Go right now
countries.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you could Google. Maybe we can Google it. It's coming from It's something like the United States, Canada, Mexico, and then like something that we're not even geographically connected to. And then I guess they package it all here. But think about that, like how we're so disconnected from our food that when you eat a freaking burger from Trader Joe's, it came from 4 countries. I'm not making this up.
I believe you. I wouldn't think you were making it up. But I shouldn't say I'm surprised, because if it's cheaper to do it that way, that's how they're going to do it. And Trader Joe's is known for having, fairly inexpensive food.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say cheap because it's all good, but like Whole Foods. One of the things that I like about Whole Foods, people say Whole Foods is expensive. It is expensive.
It is expensive.
But they'll show you like the farm where the beef is being grown, and you can choose how you want it. Like you can choose, like I did Bourdain's show the other day. We're hunting pheasants in Montana for an upcoming episode, and we were talking about steak. And he was like, you know what? Everybody says, oh, you have to have grass-fed. He goes, I like a fatty steak. He goes, I like steak that eats corn. I think it tastes better in a lot of ways. But they give you options.
Right, they give you that like tiered system. Yeah.
Shows you exactly where the meat is coming from. There's a fucking photo of the farm. Like they show you the farm where these things are being raised. And it's more expensive to eat sustainable food. It is. It's more expensive. These hunts that I go on, those aren't cheap, and it's the effort is way more. I mean, if I shoot an elk, it's going to take me 5 or 6 days to put it all together to get one, and then you have to process the meat and carry it and freeze it and
do you do
store
all of that, or do you have people? I assume you have somebody helping you.
It
do
depends.
Some of that stuff.
On some of them, I've done all of it,
wow.
And on other ones, if I'm traveling, I'm flying. What I can do is do a lot of it, and then bring the remaining pieces. I'll quarter it and bring the quarters to a meat processor and ask them to turn into steaks or turn into sausage or have things like that done. But the big cuts, like the back straps and the tenderloins and stuff like that, I do all that myself. The heart and the liver, wow. I cut all that stuff out myself, and then I bring it with me. I freeze it. And
if you want to see how crazy the food system is, also you could check, there's so many documentaries on this, but the amount of laws that we have that protect the factory farming from simple things like having cameras in where the chickens are. Illegal.
Yep.
The things that Purdue is getting away with. I always think Purdue to me is like the worst of the worst, because if you watch their commercials, and this goes to what we were talking about with the drugs and the happy people during the day, and then they're having diarrhea and killing each other or whatever. Like the Purdue commercials, you got this guy come out. He's hanging out with chickens. He's talking to them. Oh, there's Bernadette. And
do they still have those?
Yeah,
commercials?
They still do all that stupid shit. Or sometimes it's a cartoon, and he walks in and good morning. What he doesn't say is that he's about, it's like a Holocaust going on in there. He's killing all the chickens, and he's going to kill them. But we have somehow that's how marketing is so crazy. We don't let cameras in to watch them rip the beaks off and burn the feathers off.
Not only do we not let them in, it's illegal.
So think about that.
You can get arrested.
What does that have to do? Why would would our government, that's supposed to have our best interests at heart, right? I guess that's what government's supposed to have. Why would they pass that kind of law?
Right.
Well, there's a lot of money to be made.
Exactly. If you want to go to General Motors and you want to film them putting together a Camaro, of course.
Yeah,
they don't give a shit.
They love it. Look
Take you on a tour.
Yeah.
This is how we do it. Why? Because no fucking babies are getting crushed while they're making Camaros.
Right.
But if you want to go to a pig farm and film it, you can go to jail. Like, these are new laws that have been passed because of whistleblowers. And those laws are evil. That's evil. It should be transparent, 100%. You should be able to know exactly where your food is coming from. There's only one way to do that.
Yeah. We've done so many things between feeding these animals all sorts of shit that they shouldn't be eating. Have you ever drove up, I think it's a 5 if you're driving up towards like San Francisco and you pass Harris Ranch?
Yep. Yeah.
So Harris Ranch, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the largest meat producer in the United States, or the largest meat producing ranch in the United States. And when you pass it, they call it Cowschwitz. That's how there's so much, it stinks of death. Pure death, right? You smell that for a good mile or two. You can see it in the air. You see these dirty animals that can barely move. I love meat. On my Twitter from last night, I had grass-fed steaks cooked on a Himalayan salt plate. I love meat, right? But after that, I was like, Jesus, like, this is serious. That's when I got on at least doing the grass-fed free-range thing.
Well, this
I was
is
like,
what
I
happens.
can't be part of this. But I know it's about money.
Well, it's not just about money. It's about volume. Like when you have a community of 20 million people like Los Angeles, and none of them are growing their own food, they're going to need food. And where's that food going to come from? It's going to come from somebody else that grows that food. And well, how are they going to grow that food? They're going to grow that food in the most cost-effective and efficient way possible, which means stuff these fucking animals into these cages, and unless you demand something different. And well, if you do demand something different, you're going to have a higher price because then these companies aren't going to be making much money. So they're going to have to charge more money for the meat, and then people can't afford it, and then it becomes a problem. But if you want to be able to go to In-N-Out Burger, or In-N-Out is not a good example because it takes a little time, but like Jack in the Box, pull in, get a ground up beef sandwich within 30 seconds. Like there's only one way to do that. You know, you got to do it with a massive factory. You have to be churning these fuckers out, hanging them by their ankles, and putting piston, you know, through their brain every 30 seconds. I mean, that's it's got to be chunk, 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 chunk. You got to be constantly whacking them out because there's so many people that are hungry.
Yeah. How do you think we get people to wake up on this? Because we cover it on my show sometimes. It's one of the things that I bring on Kara to talk about our food sources and the way that these, you know, we're eating sick animals and then we wonder why we're sick. Like it's all, of course it's all connected. You open up a thing of meat and it's gray. Why is it gray?
Right.
Why would you put that in
It's
your...
old.
Yeah. Why would you put that in your body? But this is one of those things. It's like the level of our discourse in America and the level of the nonsense on cable news, and they can keep us distracted with Kim Davis issues, and they can keep us distracted just with all of this nonsense. And I don't think it's necessarily like some big conspiracy of keeping us distracted as much as it's what we are as humans, is this endless distraction. There's just this endless distraction, and you got to pilfer some truth out of it. You got to pilfer some way to find something that works for you. So I don't know that they can ever fix it because we're just in it.
I don't even know if it's an endless distraction. I think that life has too many variables. It's almost impossible to consider all the variables. Are you going to build your own shelter? Are you going to figure out your own electricity? Are you going to run your own wires? Are you going to fix your own washing machine? Are you going to build your own washing machine? You know, where are you going to get it? Where are you going to get the parts? How are you going to fucking forge the metal? It's like there's so many things involved with living a comfortable, healthy life in 2015 in a city. That, I mean, are you going to be responsible for all aspects, or is it just going to be food sourcing? What about sewage? What about waste disposal? What are you going to do about all that stuff? Are you going to look into that, or are you just going to like flush your shit down the toilet and hope the guy at the other end knows what to do?
Right.
I mean, that's essentially what it boils down to, this super complicated civilization that has been created. You could say we've created, but it's we're riding on the momentum of the people that came before us.
Yeah.
And those people that came before us oftentimes didn't know what the fuck they were doing, didn't plan for the future, certainly didn't think that. I mean, when I was a kid, okay, in the 1970s, there was like 100 million less people in this country. Just think about that. Think about the numbers between like 1975 and 2015. There's more than I think it's more than 100 million more people just in this country.
I mean, the baby
alone.
boomers had all those kids.
It's insane. And then there's India, that's exploding population, of China, massive population to the point where they're trying to limit the amount of babies that people have. I mean, we live in a very, very strange time in that people are awakening to all the problems that have been created by this massive amount of people and this incredible need for resources. But at the same time, you're working 8 hours a day plus commuting, plus hobbies, plus sexual needs and entertainment needs and friendships and every pull and push and, oh, well, you've got to have civic responsibility. Guess what, Dave Rubin? We need you for jury duty. You can't catch up. You can't catch up. And we operate on this fucking constant momentum with very little quiet time. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I love. Yeah,
goes to this thing.
Well, that's what I love the most about the sensory deprivation tank, is that I get that quiet time that you don't get. You know, I get time for reflection.
How often are you doing it?
Well, I have it in my house.
Oh man!
So I do it all the time.
Wow, that is really cool.
Yeah, I think everyone should do it just to try it, just to feel what it's like to just be alone with your thoughts. Because it's the only time you're actually alone with your thoughts, because your body isn't even registering.
Is there a lock on that thing?
No.
I would be freaking out the entire time.
No, why would it be locked?
Well, I know, but it doesn't make sense. But like, would there be some reason that it could lock?
No.
There's
not even a latch.
There's not even a latch.
There's it's not
nothing.
a door handle or anything. It just pushes open and pushes closed.
And how long do you go in there for?
As long as I want. Usually at least an hour, usually.
Really?
But sometimes 2 hours.
I know for the first like 20 minutes of being in there, I'd be like, is this thing locked? Did I get locked in? Like, it would be a lot. Even if I was alone, you know what I mean? I would just be fearing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You get used to it. It's like everything else. It's not scary at all. It's relaxing.
What does one of those run you?
It's expensive.
All right.
You can get a cheap one for I think there's a company called Zen Float that makes a small personal one that Duncan has in his house, and I think that one is still fairly expensive, but it's like $1,500. I got the top of the line Bad Mama Jamma Float Lab version, which is like $30,000.
Wow.
Yeah, they're really expensive, but mine is 7 feet tall and 9 feet wide, and it looks like a meat locker. It looks like a gigantic freezer that you step into, but it's perfect. It's
I'd like to
completely
see the
sealed.
compound that you live on. I feel like there's a lot of cool between the chickens
There's a lot of
and the
shit going on there.
deprivation. Yeah, like a lot. And there's elk.
I have an
body,
archery
body
range.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a full archery range. Goes
Damn.
out to 100 yards in my yard. Rubber pigs and rubber elk and rubber
I have
deers.
I have an IKEA couch outside.
Did you build it
It's
yourself?
an
Or
L.
Did you hire someone?
No, I built it. I don't want to brag, but it's an L. It's pretty sweet.
I was reading this thing that was they were talking about people, they experience more satisfaction in the ownership of things like IKEA, because even though it's not like good furniture, it's not like the best furniture, the fact that they put it together themselves gives them a sense of satisfaction that I think we're kind of missing in part of our culture. Like someone who built their own house and built their own furniture and they sit in their own house, their own furniture, probably gets like a deep feeling of satisfaction about that.
Well, I can tell you as someone that has almost all IKEA. It's funny. I'm 39. I started stand-up in right when I got out of college, 98. Had radio shows. Like it's been a long journey. I finally, for the first time in this past, it's really in the past 6 months and only in the last couple months that I really feel like I'm sort of on the other side for the first time. And I know that feeling never goes away, and I probably just jinxed it.
The other
horribly.
side in what way?
Well, the other side meaning like I feel like I'm here somewhere. Like I'm in this.
You've got a career.
Yeah, like
it's working.
like I really have something and know what I'm saying and know what I'm doing and being rewarded for it, financially and personally and by my audience and stuff. But I'm not rolling in dough by any stretch. I don't even make six figures. But I'm doing good, right?
You're not scared.
I'm not. Yeah, but the fear, it's always there. It does,
Right.
the fear factor, so to speak. I think it probably never leaves the most. I have a friend of mine who's on a huge sitcom. She's making a boatload of money, and she talks to me about it all the time. That like she's like, it could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then what? And then what am I left with? So I have some money now, but what am I left with? But I do aspire. My house is pretty much 90% IKEA. Like I want to get to
100?
No, I want to get to the point when I want to get to 10% IKEA. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Like my couch is IKEA, my bed is IKEA, my futon's IKEA. The shit in my kitchen is IKEA. Like that would be to me success.
Like
Let's just
designer furniture.
Yeah, well, because the IKEA couch more than anything is painful.
Not good.
It's not good.
No.
That might be why my neck hurts. It's not because of my iPad.
Could be that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I'm joking, but also like there's a lot of truth in that. Like that I feel like it sort of started working, and I was just looking around my place the other day, like maybe the next phase will be like a little bit more something.
Well, I feel like it's a
life.
rabbit hole that you have to be really careful whether you step in, because it will suck your time up.
Yeah. Sure.
This hunting thing has sucked my time up. If I went into the manufacturing my own furniture thing, like cutting my own wood and milling it, and unfortunately, I have friends that are professional woodworkers.
Mm-hmm.
I know like that it is possible to learn all that stuff and then build furniture. You could do it, but then you'd have to say, okay, well, am I going to weave my own cloth to cover this furniture?
Right. Are you churning your own butter?
Yeah.
I mean, what are we talking about?
Am I going to use the elk that I kill for the leather that covers the couch? And I'm going to have to kill quite a few animals to populate my house.
The whole thing would be a bloodbath. It would be nuts.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. Or am I going to, get one of them crazy Indian weaves, where you like have the yarn, you pull it through, and you push it down and make your own cloth.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fucking work.
Do you feel like you're there?
What do you
That
mean?
place on the other side where you've sort of built what you wanted to build and your life and your work and all of it is sort of lined up. Do you feel that you're there?
No, I don't think.
So that's what I mean.
I don't
It
think
never-
like that.
Yeah.
I don't think like that.
When I ask you
don't
that
worry.
specifically.
I don't worry about money.
Yeah.
I don't worry about money, but I worry about work. In that I want to make sure that everything I'm doing is good.
Yeah.
Whether it's podcasts or whether it's stand up or whether it's doing my commentary, I always want to make sure that I'm not doing bad stuff. and that if I have done something that's not that good, I make sure that that doesn't happen ever again, or that if it does happen again, I learn from that one too, and then it gets better even there. So there's that. Like, it's not like, shit, I got to pay my bills, but I do remember that feeling bad. And I also remember the moment that went away, how free it was. Like, I got a development deal when I was like, I don't know how many years in the comedy, but it's like 93, and I got a big check from Disney of all people. And all of a sudden, I didn't have to worry about how I was paying my rent. All of a sudden, for at least the next year or so, or a couple of years, it was paid. And there was like this silence. Like this weight, just literally a physical weight felt like it lifted off my shoulders. And then I thought about it and I said, man, you know what? Some people never get to that place. They live their life from cradle to the grave, constantly under the pressure of bills, check to check. And that freedom of not worrying about your bills is massive. And people trip themselves up by putting themselves in debt and by getting in over their head, giving themselves a bunch of shit that they don't need. Then they have to pay for it, or they buy it on credit. Then they have to fucking, don't worry, I'll figure out a way. And that pressure is overwhelming for people.
Yeah.
And when that pressure went away, it was replaced by the pressure to try to do good stuff, to try to do things that I can be proud of, to try to do things where...
But weren't you doing that already?
Yeah, but I was trying to do it, and I was worried about making money at the same time. And as soon as the worry about making money kind of goes away, then you're left with a pure sense of why you're doing it.
So isn't that, for all the things that now we put out there, podcast, video, audio, all that stuff, owning your brand, all the things that you do.
I hate that expression.
It's sort of, I know, I hate it too, but like...
Own your brand. You've done amazing things with your brand.
Branding.
When people say that, I want to run from them.
Yeah.
How do you manage your brand? Somebody asked me to do a seminar on that really recently.
Yeah. Well, you're not worried about money, so I guess you didn't have to. Pretty good.
I don't think you make much money in those seminars.
Seminars pay.
You know who gets money? The people that run the seminar.
Yeah.
They get money.
They're doing it all right.
They're the pimps. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. But that's the beauty of all this stuff. So you built this whole thing, and then you're free. You answer to yourself.
Yeah.
You know? And
in
it's
that
really,
sense,
and this is a very unique time for people like us, because finally all of this exists so that we can control our destiny.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm attached to a network. Aura's been really good to me, as you said at the beginning. They let me do whatever I want. I mean, literally, they sat me down the day before the show started. An executive who I had never met in person before said, he's like, I have one thing to say to you. Make the show you want to make, not the show you think we want you to make.
What is your show on? What is it on now?
So we're on Aura TV.
What is that?
Which is Larry King's digital network.
Larry King has his own digital network?
Larry King.
Look
It's
at him.
with partners with Carlos Slim.
Who's that?
Carlos Slim
Slim
is,
Jim?
They said no. He's even richer than that guy.
No way.
They say he is either the richest or second richest man in the world. He's a Mexican
that
telecom
dude.
billionaire. Yeah, he partly owns the New York Times now and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So they're part digital network and part production company. So William Shatner has a show there. Jesse Ventura has a show.
They pay well?
I mean, as I said, I'm
That's a
not
pause.
making six figures.
I don't like pauses.
I'm not making six figures. But they let me do whatever I
Tell Larry
want.
King he's almost dying. Come
in
with the
here.
cash.
To
Come on,
pony
release
up.
the hounds.
Yeah, he's been very good to me. You know what? I'll tell you.
Whatever.
I'll tell you what.
I want to hear better numbers.
Believe me, I want to hear better numbers too. But actually, this is the first deal that I ever had my agent close for me. And because I'd always done, even my SiriusXM deals, I did by myself, and my podcast deals, I'd always done everything. And when my agent did this, I didn't realize how hard it was going to be for me to let go and be like, oh, I'm supposed to trust you to actually do a deal.
Oh, yeah.
And that was really hard for me to actually say, but that's how you mature in this thing. You gotta
have a good agent.
Yeah.
You know, I told you my issue that I had with the agent when the Mencia thing went down, how horrible that was. But I've had the same manager, scrub. I was just a kid in my early 20s, didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I was able to since I was an open micer.
Wow.
That's where I got really lucky. My manager, he found me in Boston when I was make people laugh. And he saw something that he thought, and we worked together ever since. And he's one of my best friends. He's a great friend.
Yeah.
So...
But a
I've been
manager
really
could be. I think people always confuse sort of the manager-agent thing. A manager really is sort of like, in a lot of respects, should be your friend and your guru and your sort of helping you down that road. The agent is getting you gigs.
But sometimes they're not. I mean, I have friends that have just really fucked up relationships with their managers. And
Yeah.
and when you're not doing well, the manager can be a real cunt and hard to get on the codependent relationship. That
Wait,
these
you're
people
saying
have.
that people in this town can be fair weather friends and
I'm
not necessarily?
saying exactly
I
that.
can't believe it.
Listen, we're almost out of time, but
Yeah.
I really, before we leave, I have to talk to you about one thing that you
Yeah.
told me that I think is, and when you do start doing well, then they're your buddy. Like, it's an incestuous, weird, fucking very strange codependent relationship. That
Wait,
these
you're
people
saying
have.
that people in this town can be fair weather friends and not
I'm
necessarily?
saying exactly
I
that.
can't believe it.
Listen, we're almost out of time, but
Yeah.
I really, before we leave, I have to talk to you about one thing that you
Yeah.
told me that I think is incredibly fascinating.
Uh-oh.
You came out literally to someone for the very first time the day before September 11th.
The night, it was about midnight of September 11th, so meaning September 10th. It had just
Yes.
rolled into September 11th. The first person I ever came out to, a brilliant comic who you've never heard of, and I don't even know what happened to him. This guy, Mike Singer, was one of the best comics that I ever knew. We worked for years together. This guy was wickedly funny. I think he lives in Colombia now or something, not doing stand-up. Anyway, he was gay, and in a way, I was ahead of my time in terms of being out as a comic that doesn't necessarily play into every stereotype and all that. This guy was really ahead of it because he was 15 years older than me and had done it already. Anyway, we were in the Times Square subway. I was going back. I lived on the Upper East at the time. I was walking to the shuttle thing to get on the East Side. And I was just a fucking complete mess. It's incredibly hard to live one life, right? Like, to live one life on this planet is a hard thing. Try living two at the same time. And that's what I was doing, because I had my life that everyone knew, and then I had this secret life where I was out, hooking up, and I was lying to people constantly, even though I never intended to lie. I would be somewhere and I'd bump into a friend and I'd be with a gay person, and I could just, oh, that's my cousin. Like, it was incredible. I never, really, I mean this, I never intended to lie to people, or it just became this really horrible game of cat and mouse, and I was depressed, and I was smoking a lot of pot and all this shit. Anyway, and then when it really, as I said to you earlier, that it was the fuel for good comedy for a long time, and then eventually it just started sputtering. It was like I wasn't happy, I wasn't full, couldn't bring those things to the stage anymore, and just my life was a fucking disaster. Anyway, about midnight, just 8 hours before the first plane hit, I'm in this Times Square subway station with my friend. I told him I was gay. I don't think he realized, even though this guy knew me for years, I don't think he realized that. I don't think I said, oh, you're the first person I'm telling, or something like that. Like, I just said it. And we talked for 2 or 3 minutes, and he's like, all right, I'll talk to you later this week or something. And I go home, and I woke up, and I turn on the TV, and America's under attack. And I kid you not, like, I was smoking a lot of pot at the time. I was not mentally right. Like, I wasn't. I remember probably a few weeks before that, I was walking to the subway, and by living two lives, I felt like a crazy person. It's hard to describe. The only way I could describe it was I remember walking down 2nd Avenue, and it looked like all the buildings were shaking. Like, I felt centered. Like, I was okay, but literally it felt like the world was being ripped apart. That was like the level of disconnect I had with reality at that point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you can't express your love properly, if you can't, that's why we started this whole thing talking about all these guys that are jacked and working out all the time and whatever. It's like, that's why I said it's very sad to me, because these are people who could not express a very human thing in a proper way. So they end up acting out at 45 in a way that they should have acted when they were 15,
Or they're partying and having a great
Or they're
time, and
just
you're a
having
hater.
Milo Yiannopoulos.
What do you have against meth?
Well, Milo, who you had on a couple weeks ago, and I had him on the day or two after. I mean, we argued about that. Me as the liberal, the gay married liberal, who's for that traditional thing, and him as the off-the-wall British gay conservative who's against gay marriage because he wants to talk about drugs and partying and sex and whatever. So that's why I love talking to him.
In all honesty, and I really enjoy talking to Milo, he's trolling in so many different ways simultaneously.
Well, he's winking at you the
Yes,
entire time.
Exactly.
That's the audience. I think the audience is aware of it, and if he was sitting right here,
Most
he
of
wouldn't.
the audience isn't aware of it, I don't think.
Well, these people are idiots. But anyway,
so
I woke up, and I kid you not, Joe, I kid you not, I thought it had something to do with me. I thought we were like, the world was attacked or we were under attack because that I finally expressed this thing this secret that I had.
That it's so bad
that
being out caused the world to collapse.
Yeah, I know that. Even saying that now, I've only told this publicly maybe twice. Like, it sounds completely fucking insane, and it is insane. But like, that's where my head was at. And interestingly, after that, the way I dealt with coming out was I would tell someone, and then I would get this little burst of feeling better. I would suddenly, because I was like constricting my heart, and when I would tell someone, it would open up a little, and I'd feel better, and I really could feel like I could breathe better, like really felt better. And then I would wait until that pressure would start building again. Sometimes I would wait months, and then I would tell someone, and then I would do this over the course of like 2 years, and then eventually I realized I was like, every time I tell somebody this thing that I think is horrible, and they're pretty much okay, and I feel better, I was like, I got to end this. It's time to end this now. And that's basically when I told the remaining people, and that was it.
It's a weird secret because the people that do care, that don't like it, they're not worth knowing.
And literally nobody that I told. My dad struggled for a little bit, or whatever, this and that. The thing that mostly people got was that nobody believed I was gay. That was like my main. But you play basketball, you know what I mean? You play basketball, like you do, like that. So nobody could believe. Like, they just, well, you don't seem gay. Like, I don't like to dance. I don't.
Gays dancing. That's hilarious.
I learned my dancing from Cosby. Like, that's my move.
That's funny.
So all of that, like, so that was the main thing. Everyone was just sideswiped. So a lot of times people will say to me, you act straight, or you're straight acting or something, which in the gay community is thought of as like this great thing. That if you're straight acting, you're masculine. It's really great. But I don't take it that way, because every time someone says it to me, it makes me feel like a freak. You know what I mean? Like, why am
I?
Yeah, because I am who I am. This is it. You know what I mean? Like I had gay sex last night after I had that grass-fed beef, and so I'm gay. I'm married to a guy.
That sounds like a gay person.
That's a pretty gay
You're
thing.
Married to a guy, I would say you're gay.
Yeah, it's pretty gay. That's when I realized. I was like, oh, I'm marrying this dude? Like, I guess I'm gay. but you know what I mean?
That's
like,
when you realized.
I was like, holy shit. Like, I guess, well,
No turning back now.
Yeah.
It was a phase. I was experimenting.
Yeah, this is a long phase. I'm really like, it's dragging out this phase thing. But I realized that if I felt better when I told people that there had to be some value in that, in a way that I couldn't understand things.
Right.
But to the straight acting, like, so it means nothing to me. When I meet guys that are completely flaming, or if I meet guys that you'd have no idea, like, I like people based on their values and their sense of humor and like shit like that. I never.
As do all people that matter.
Yeah. And you know what? That's sort of a great way to bring this all around, because that gets away from judging people on what you're supposed to think about them and all that social justice warrior and regressive bullshit, versus judging people on the content of their character.
And also it gets back to what we were saying earlier, that it's just being aware socially, being a good person to communicate with, versus being socially retarded and just looking for those Ben Affleck brownie moments.
Yeah. Let me toss in one other thing that sort of ties into this really nicely. So one time when I was on The Young Turks, and I'm not going to mention names here, but I was on, and they were showing a clip from Fox News, and they were talking about how the black host, that he was such a token black guy. He was such a token black guy. And I actually know the guy. It's this guy, David Webb, who I used to work with at SiriusXM. I'm pretty good friends with him. I had dinner with him last week. He is a black conservative. He is a conservative. I know him. I know what this guy believes. He spends hours on the air every day professing his beliefs. Mm-hmm. And this happened a little bit after that whole Sam Harris thing, but that was another moment when I realized how perverse this whole regressive thing is. That here you have people on the left that are supposed to be about ideas looking at the color of that guy's skin and saying, well, because you don't believe what I think you're supposed to believe as a black person, you're a token black guy. We've all done that. Like when they showed like a Republican convention and there's one black guy applauding, like, oh, there's the token black guy. But I realized that's actually racism. Like that was really a seminal moment for me that really changed my thinking. Because I was like, this is crazy. I know this person personally. This is a friend of mine, and I know he's not doing this because he's a token black. This is what he believes. And you, as on the left, are pointing at this guy and saying, you're different than what I think you're supposed to be, black guy, so you must be a token, or you're an Uncle Tom or a sellout or something. And all of this, when you the gay stuff, the social justice, or the regressive stuff, like, judge people based on what they say and what they believe. Nothing else. That's it.
That's it. Wrap it up. Dave Rubin, thank you very much, man. I'm glad we got together.
I've never had to pee as badly as I do right this second.
Go run. I'll wrap this up.
If I had peed, I
could just keep going. We just talk. It's fine. People have done it a bunch of times. How do people get your show? Thank you. My pleasure.
Really, this was beyond a pleasure.
How do people listen to your show? How do they get a hold of it?
YouTube/Rubin Report or a .tv/Rubin Report. Rubin Report on Twitter. My branding. I told you the branding.
Keep that brand alive.
Thanks, brother.
All right, thanks, brother.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back soon. See you. Have a lovely life. Kiss your friends. Bye-bye.
Wait, I seriously gotta pee.